Welcome once again. And shortly, before we get the activity started, just to let us know that today is going to be a bumper pack, and it's going to be a 2-in-1 event, quite different from what we've always had in recent times. This year, we'll be having the business outlook, which will be coming up this morning. And then later on in the afternoon, we'll be having the alumni general meeting. Yes, so there's been a big gap, a very long time since we last had an alumni general meeting. And yes, trust me, it's going to be a great one today. And so once again, for viewers that are there back home at our various business locations, most of us probably could be stuck in traffic. Ensure that you have your eyes peeled and you're still observing safety protocols with respect to COVID-19 and keeping the road safe for other users. Now let's proceed. Shortly, welcoming up on stage the Executive Director, FATE. Round of applause for her.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adenike Adeyemi. I will continue talking once I take off my mask. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So I'm delighted to welcome us all to the start of our FATE 2020 FATE Business Outlook and our first general meeting, as Itoro has said. Just before I introduce the keynote speaker, I would like to quickly take us through the agenda for today and how the business outlook we have from a macroeconomic perspective and just what the implications for the business environment is, while then further drilling down to the specific details and sector perspectives that majority of our alumni members represent. So we'll first start up with a presentation on the macroeconomic outlook for micro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria for 2022. And that will be led by Dr. Andrew Nevin, a special guest speaker, and I'll introduce him shortly. And then after that, we will have an interactive question and answer for that session, which will be moderated by the president of our alumni community, Mr. Max Menkiti. And so I would advise ahead of time that you should please put your questions within the chat group. We will be taking, particularly for those who are joining us online, we will be taking the questions virtually and then posting them to the president to be moderating it. So again, as you're having the questions and you're having your thoughts and your comments, please make sure to prepare your questions, put them in the chat box, keep them brief and succinct, and then put them there, and we will ensure that the questions are directed appropriately to the moderator and the keynote speaker when it's time for that. And then shortly after that, after we have the keynote session, we're then going to move into the interactive panel session. And for that, we have 5 panels. We have 4 panelists with us, and that is going to be a sectoral outlook session. We're going to be looking at the agribusiness, creatives, education, health, and sustainability sectors. And then we're going to be having 4 speakers, namely Ms. Bumi Lawson, who is the Managing Director, CEO, Edfin Microfinance Bank, who will be giving us perspectives of the education sector. And she is working in just as I speak. We'll be having Mr. Ibrahim Salau, who is one of our board members and also the Managing Director for Environmental Accord Limited, who will be providing perspectives on the sustainability sector. We will be having Mr. Chijioke Uwegute, who is also here with us as we speak, who will be providing perspectives on the creative sector. He's the partner and lead in-source solutions for tax at PwC. And then last but definitely not the least, we will be having Mr. Temitope Adegoroye, who is a partner at Sahel Consulting and will be providing perspectives to us on the agricultural sector. I will be honored and very delighted, or I am honored and very delighted to be the moderator for that section, for that session. So again, as with the keynote part, please let's make sure that we have our questions and answers. We're not going to be taking audio questions particularly from the Zoom, from the virtual audience. Once you put your questions on the chat, put your name, put your questions. For the panel questions, if you have somebody in particular that you would like to direct the question to, you can let us know, and then we will take the questions and direct them appropriately to the specific panel member. And then once that is done, we'll round up the event and then move swiftly to our annual general meeting for alumni, the first we're having in 2022, and we will be sharing details of that once we move it. So thank you very much, and we look forward to a very productive day today. So moving on very briefly, I'm now going to introduce our keynote speaker for today. He's joining us virtually, and I want to confirm from the IT team that Dr. Nevin is with us. Fantastic. Please let us see him. Thank you very much. So I will be introducing Dr. Andrew S. Nevin, who is our keynote speaker. Dr. Andrew S. Nevin, a career as a thinker and a doer, working at the complex intersection of economics, strategy, capital markets, social enterprises, and investment. And in his professional career has previously lived in Asia, North America, and Europe. He has been based in Nigeria, the world's 7th most populous country since 2012. In Nigeria, Dr. Nevin is playing a number of key roles to advance Nigeria's and West Africa's economy and society. His main role is as partner, financial services leader, and the chief economist at PwC Nigeria. Dr. Nevin is PwC West Africa's financial sector services leader across assurance, tax, and advisory. His own clients include numerous African banks, insurance companies, and capital market players. As the chief economist of PwC, he leads the team to speak and to provide perspectives on the Nigerian economy, and also leads many engagements with public sector entities, with international development organizations, focusing on key challenges within the Nigerian economy, such as including capital markets, housing, and innovation. He has a PhD in economics from Harvard University, a Master of Arts in Philosophy and Politics from Barbell College in Oxford University. And he also has a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science and Mathematics from the University of Western Ontario, Canada. In April 2011, he was named Strategy Consultant of the Year 2010 by the Management Consultants Association. Please join me virtually and here in person in welcoming Dr. Andrew Nevin as he gives his keynote presentation on the macroeconomic outlook for Nigeria's micro, small, and medium enterprises in 2022. You're welcome, sir. I also want to mention that to moderate this session, because that will happen very swiftly. Once Dr. Nevin is done, the president of our alumni community, Mr. Max Menkiti, will come up and then will moderate the interactive Q&A. Thank you. Dr. Nevin, can you hear us?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. We can hear you very much loud and clear. Our apologies for the delay. And once again, please join me in welcoming Dr. Andrew Nevin, our keynote speaker, to give us the keynote on the outlook for Nigeria's micro, small, and medium enterprises for 2020. Over to you, Dr. Nevin. Okay, please, you can start your camera again and then but we can hear your audio. So we've seen you now. Thank you. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
So good morning. Good morning, Adenike. Good morning, everyone. Really an honor to be here. I apologize, the little confusion because I was on two devices. The voice and the visual come on different devices. But just as I said, an honor to be here. I'm going to speak for about 30 minutes. And I'm not going to do anything that really economists typically do. I'm not going to give predictions. I don't make predictions, especially about the future. I'm not going to talk about interest rates. I'm not going to talk much about the exchange rates. What I am going to talk about, I think, are the things that should be important to you as business people and entrepreneurs,
Recording in progress.
important to you as Nigerians, important to you as people on that. So I'll run through this quite quickly. Obviously, all the slides will be shared, but I'll go through it quite quickly just because we only have half an hour for this and then some questions. So let me just see if I can everyone see the screen? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. And we can see the screen on there. So as I said, so this is really about reflections on the world economy and the Nigerian economy and implications, I think, for everyone in the room. And as I said, about 30 minutes, and then we'll take some questions. But let me just start by going back a little bit in history. And I mean, for many people in the room, of course, maybe you're too young to remember this, but I just think it's really useful to situate where the world economy and indeed the world society is as we sit here in amazingly in 2022. And if we go back to 2006, it was really an extraordinary period. So the, sorry, my screen has disappeared. The sharing has disappeared. If we go back to 2006, at the time, there was this belief that the financial system was self-correcting, that this incredible expansion in house prices and housing activity in the United States could go on forever. On that nationwide housing prices could never fall. And there was really no concern that the financial system could grow as fast as it was growing much faster than the real economy. And I can tell you back at the time that economists patted themselves on the back. They had really solved all the world's problems. But we know that that's not true because we know what happened next, or at least those of us old enough to remember what happened next was the great financial crisis in 2008. And I actually joined PwC in September 15th, 2008, which was the day that Lehman Brothers went bankrupt on that. And what did people say? They said, who could have seen this coming? I mean, for many people, it was obvious. In hindsight, it was obvious. But most of mainstream economists and politicians and business people thought this was an act of God. And people also said at the time we needed to save the financial system at all costs. So we had these kind of unprecedented programs, those of us old enough to remember, of just bailing out the banks, bailing out the financial system, bailing out the investors on there, and no accountability. In the United States, not a single person, I believe, went to jail, despite the fact, really, at the end of the day, there were crimes committed. So what happened next in this story? So from my perspective, all the actions of the monetary authorities really embedded the next crisis. So we had zero negative interest rates, which is extraordinary. For those of us who studied economics, the one iron rule in economics is interest rates have to be positive on that. But yet we broke the iron rule, negative interest rates, quantitative easing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, infinity, and just a flood of global liquidity. And this was all done to increase global growth, which at the end of the day never really materialized. I mean, this policy, these strategies just didn't work. And we ended up with something called financial repression, which is we have in Nigeria today, and again, we have around the world, which is where interest rates are repressed. And so the bottom of the pyramid really have difficulty accumulating assets. And no discussion of the redistributive aspects of all of these policies at the time, just to believe it would cause this liftoff. Of course, then in the recent times, 2 years, more than 2 years now, we've had COVID-19. So overlaid in all of this, we've had this unprecedented health and economic shock. We've had incredible fiscal stimulus all around the world. We've got global debt burdens at record high. But we've also had something else that's really, I think should be concerning to all of us. I mean, at the end of the day, through COVID, the rich have got extraordinarily richer and the poor have got poorer, or they've died on that. So, I mean, I think people have expressed it well. There was discussion at the beginning of COVID, we're all in the same boat. We're not in the same boat. We're in the same storm, but just some people are in super luxury yachts and some people are in rowboats. And of course, then we said we could build back better if there's a will to do that, which we seem to be losing. And then we come to, let's call the post-COVID narrative, which is that things were going to rapidly turn around in an economic sense. But this is not happening. In fact, we now see with all the supply chain issues, we see with incredible inflation around the developed world, we see with the demographics in China, of course, their economic model is cracking. It was based so much on the expansion of residential housing, which we now have 40 million units that are unoccupied, and we're starting to see those cracks in companies like Evergrande and others in that. So really, that's kind of a quick journey through some history there. And one of the reasons I think this quick journey is important is too often in Nigeria, I hear people talk about external events, other economies, how it impacts Nigeria. I mean, my view is pretty simple, that Nigerians are in control of their own economic destiny. They shouldn't be depending on what happens in the outside events. They shouldn't be using them either to say that's why things have gone well or gone badly. We really are responsible for our own economic destiny. So as we come into 2022, what really matters, I mean, as business people, as I said, as Nigerians, as human beings, I want to put 4 things on the table for you to think about. And I want to start with just the demographics. I mean, we talk about this a lot, but I don't think people really absorb how rapidly demographic implications are going to affect the global economy. And it goes back to this point that Nigerians and Africans need to build their own economy because they can't rely on demand from the outside world. And of course, we've all seen this chart, which, I mean, I've spent a lot of time in my life in the United Kingdom. My wife is British. And at the end of the day, we spend too much ink about Brexit, about Boris Johnson, about what's going on in the United Kingdom. I mean, the reality is the United Kingdom fits into Madagascar on that. And Africa is much bigger than that. Enormous, fits in 90% of the world's economies in the land mass on that. So let's just remember how big Africa is. And remember from a demographic weight viewpoint, how rapidly this shift is happening. So I want to give you a couple of facts that maybe people don't quite absorb yet, which is that the number of children outside of Africa is in decline. The number of working age adults outside of Africa is in decline. And of course, we still have a very young growing population. On that, this particular chart just shows the number of births globally over the next few decades. The orange bar is the number in Africa. The gray bar is the number in all of the rest of the world: India, China, USA, Europe, Brazil, Indonesia, all of it put together. And you can see in the not too distant future, over 40% of the births happen in Africa. So the economic and demographic weight of the world is rapidly transforming, shifting to Africa and Nigeria. And to put a couple of numbers on it, there were 40 million babies born last year in Africa. There were 5 million in all of Europe. Europe extending all the way to Ukraine and Poland. Even if we added in Russia, the number would be 5.5 million, I think. There were 7 million babies born in Nigeria. So it means, on the one hand, we are going to have tremendous opportunities from Nigeria in exporting our people and our brains around the world. I'll talk a bit more about that. But it also means we can't rely on Europe or India or anywhere else for demand for our products. Africans have to demand our products if we're going to prosper on that. And so Africans trading with Africans is the only way to prosperity in the continent and in Nigeria. We've got other numbers that I'll be sharing with you. The other thing I just wanted to just raise at this point was just the climate crisis. I think, I said this speech was not just about your roles as business people or as Nigerians, but also as human beings. This is perhaps the biggest issue on the planet in many ways. And unfortunately, for us, we are being affected despite the fact that we didn't cause it. So, there's a fundamental justice issue in the climate change. We see the Sahara moving south and the issues that's raising. We see the potential for, I owned a home. I live in Abuja now. I'm speaking from Abuja, but prior to the pandemic, I lived 10 years in Lagos, owned my own home, our own home in Lekki. That part of Lekki is projected probably to be underwater. I'll show it another slide on that. So this is happening already to us. As I said, we didn't cause the climate. Africa did not cause it. Africa contributes so little to the greenhouse gases, and yet we're bearing the brunt of it. But all our planning needs to think about this. And so I didn't bring the slide, but there's a slide that we have that says that 10 to 25% of Nigeria's population will be underwater if the temperature rises 2 degrees on that, which essentially, I think the Lucky, where I had my townhouse, that part of Lucky is below sea level. So it definitely would be underwater on that. So this is an issue that everyone in this room should be taking an interest in as you develop your businesses. So with that said, as some background of kind of the global things, what's really important in Nigeria? So I have 10 issues I just want to run through here that we think are really critical and present, I think, obviously things to think about, but I think for many of you, one or two or three even of these issues will also present opportunities for you going forward as entrepreneurs. And let me also by start saying, I am more optimistic about the future of Nigeria than I ever have been in the 13 years that I've spent here. And the reason I'm optimistic is because every day I work with people, I encounter people who are doing extraordinary things all over the country in every field of endeavor, whether it's every economic sector, NGOs, education, health, IT, helping young people, solving problems that are in our environment, circular economy, waste to energy, wealth to waste, waste to energy, solar solutions. And we've got on the panel, of course, we've got a partner from Sahel. It's fantastic. I mean, what they're doing in agriculture is amazing. So despite all of the things that we all know, and I gave up talking, the bad news about Nigeria about 5 or 6 years ago, because it was not helpful. Not only was it not helpful, but in many cases it's inaccurate. And before I start on these 10 things, I need to say a word about the official numbers. So I won't say it's an official PwC policy, but from a personal viewpoint, I have little faith in our official numbers. The economy is much bigger than we say. There are pockets of economic activity all over the country. The methodologies we use to collect economic statistics are, I won't say outdated because other statistical bureaus use them as well, but are not adequate to capture the level of economic activity. Everyone that has bet on the Nigerian consumer has done extraordinarily well. We're going to have a rebasing this year in any event. So I don't use or like using it. You're forced to, in many ways, use the official statistics. But the economy is much bigger than we think. The population is smaller than we think for reasons we all understand, which means that the GDP per capita is actually much bigger than many people purport to say. So in doing your research and your thinking, I would never rely on the official statistics. You have to do your own research on the ground. I'll give you one sectoral example, real estate. If you look at the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, real estate statistics, they've been very poor for a number of years. But if you look around the country on the ground, there's so much real estate activity. There's so much demand for cement. There's so much demand for labor there on that. There's a mismatch between those things. So in your planning and thinking, you need to get to really what's going on in your sector or the relevant parts, and not rely on these official statistics. So with that said, let me just quickly run through, in the last few minutes I have, 10 top themes. Number one, unlocking dead assets. Sorry, before I do that, I want to make one other point from this slide. So I go to too many conferences where I hear about Rwanda, I hear about Singapore, I hear about the United Kingdom as models for Nigeria. Our point is Nigeria needs to find its own path, and it's going to find its own path based on its unique circumstances, a unique time in history, where technology is, where other countries are, and how Nigeria fits into that complex mosaic. And of course, we all understand Nigeria is a complex country, but the one place that we think there are many lessons to be learned that's not discussed enough is India. Why is that? And we're just releasing a paper this week on this issue. But India has a lot of similarities. It's a complex geography, very different topographies, large population, religious cleavages, social cleavages, big differences in development in different parts of the country. And we cannot claim that Nigeria is more complex than India. So the reason we're bringing out this paper is if we actually look at India over the last 30 years, they've done a lot of things that have really brought their people forward, and which is fantastic. And I mean, some of their measures, not just GDP. So, for example, the state of Kerala, which is in the south, the life expectancy in Kerala is higher than the United States. The literacy in Kerala is higher than the United States. So they've shown a path in a messy, complex, large country that has some lessons for us. But again, we take those lessons as lessons, but it's not necessarily what we do in Nigeria. We do what's right for Nigeria. So debt capital, I said, was the first one. I mean, we put out a paper a few years ago that basically said, look, Nigeria is a very wealthy country. The problem we're having is we have all these assets that are not producing a return. Some of these assets are real estate because, for reasons we all understand, the complexity of titling, of mortgages, COEs, the role of the states, the role of the federal government, the Land Use Act is not allowing real estate to function properly. It's the most important sector in the world. It creates the most employment, backward integration, forward integration, and has to start to work. And as I said a little earlier, it is working better, but there's still a long way to go. The other set of debt assets, of course, are government assets that don't produce a return. So we have the refineries, we have the National Theater, for example, but now we're starting to see this idea of unlocking debt assets is something that the government is taking an interest in. State levels have a lot of debt assets. And I was very heartened to see my dear friend, Juri Nagali, who you may know as the president for His Excellency, as the spokesperson, one of the spokespersons for His Excellency, the president, did a show on Ajaokuta Steel talking about how it's going to revive. So that was very heartening, but we need to unlock the debt assets. Second thing we talk about is just, I got tired of hearing how much we were an oil economy, so we wrote the paper that said actually what really affects the economy here and the individual Nigerians is the scale of remittances. This is just a chart a little out of date of the remittances, the official numbers. The real numbers are much bigger, so I think we topped out about 2018 to 24 billion on the World Bank numbers. The World Bank then claimed that in 2021, that number had declined to 18 billion. It's, in our view, that's completely inaccurate. There's so many peer-to-peer transactions. If it's illegal, please come and arrest me. I do peer-to-peer transactions all the time with people in Canada, the United Kingdom, who want to send money back to Nigeria. And this, we coined the term, the biggest export of Nigeria is not oil, it's brains. We then coined the term the Barbell Economy because if you think about it, brains are the most complex, highest value-added export, and oil is the least value-added export. So we have a Barbell Economy. We export the highest value-added and the lowest value-added things on the planet. But we cannot overstate how critical these remittances are to it. So I, talking to a few people around the country who are knowledgeable, is the official number is 18 billion. The real diaspora flow is probably closer to 30 billion, in fact, and another 50% on that. So hugely important. But of course, it comes with issues around exporting of brains, brain drain on that. Should we be concerned about that? I don't think we should be, but also there's another trend that's really very important here is, and COVID has accelerated this, which is we can export Nigerian brains without leaving the country. So more and more, you can see Nigeria being inserted in these global value chains for things like business process outsourcing, coding for employment, animation, and it's really exciting. And I'll give one example. Outsource Global is an amazing company run by a national heroine. Her name is Amal Hassan, and her company's based in Kaduna. She's got over 1,000 seats doing, high value added activities for US and UK companies. On that, she earns export. She earns foreign exchange for the country. She employs, as I said, over 1,000 university graduates in the north who all support their families. Just a great success story. But this export of service is going to grow. And it's not just BPO and coding for employment or animation. Cultural industries, Burna Boy, WizKid, Tiwa Savage, the Nollywood, and of course the financial industry. So I've just been doing a project on with a bank here in Nigeria with some of my colleagues from South Africa. The colleagues are basically, and this particular bank is one of them that's doing the march across Africa. My colleagues are taking the message back to South Africa. The South African banks better wake up because the Nigerian banks are coming for you. So our point at PwC is we're exporting very high value added activities, BPO, coding for employment, financial services, cultural industries. That's what we should be focused on, growing our exports, and that's where we have our comparative advantage. Growth across the country, we can't overstate this enough. And I said, one of the reasons I'm very optimistic is we've seen such progress on this. Now, if we are a large population country, so let me my personal guess, maybe 175 million people. We are not going to solve our economic challenges in a centralized way. If we have 175 million people who need employment, who need education, who need healthcare, who need housing, we need 175 million people who are working on solving these problems in their local communities, which means that so much of the development has to be led at the state level. But as I said, this is an area I think the country has done extraordinarily well in the last decade. And you could really start to see 4 or 5, 6 years ago, states emerging their own economic strategies, their own investment promotion strategies, clarity of thinking, and just some governors really switched on, focusing on education, focusing on health. And of course, it's not all states. I mean, sure, some of you from states that are struggling more than they should is problematic, but you can see the direction of travel. I mean, I can cite, of course, His Excellency Governor Obaseki, His Excellency in Ekiti, His Excellency in Nasarawa, in Kaduna. Of course, Lagos has been on this journey for over 20 years on that, and it's really extraordinary to see. And so, that's one of the key reasons I'm really optimistic is what's happening outside of Lagos Abuja bubble. Increasing integration. So we talked earlier about kind of demographic shift. Africa can only be prosperous if Africans trade with African. The AFCFTA has come together, extraordinary, ambitious program, and I'm really very optimistic about this. Not necessarily in the short run, because I think less will happen in the short run than we think, but more will happen in the medium run. I mean, remember, this is part of the AU's 2063 strategy. And if we look at the journey that other economic blocs have taken, for example, the EU started in the 50s in the ashes of the Second World War. It was really only 1992 that you got kind of this EU integration. It's really been an extraordinary project and great, brought peace and stability and prosperity to hundreds of millions of people, despite some of the criticisms of it. If I take my own country, Canada, we had a free trade in the auto industry really starting in the 1960s. By the 1990s, we ended up with free trade in the United States and Mexico, being very beneficial, certainly to us in Canada. So it's a journey, and AFCFTA is no different. But that said, I'm really heartened by the progress that's been made. And again, just linking it to the previous theme, the Nigerian AFCFTA secretariat, led by the brilliant Dr. Francis, brought together all the states. And so at the state level, they're thinking about what can we export around the continent that helps develop our states. So really, really excited about that development. Now, so that's all positive, but what's fundamentally holding us back? Well, at the end of the day, we're just not getting enough investment in the country. And this particular chart just shows the investment rates for three large countries, India, China, and Nigeria. Well, when Nigeria passes the others, if they do, we will be the third largest population country if that prediction comes true. The yellow line shows India, and you get an investment rate, what the term economists use, gross capital formation of about 26-28%. And then that fuels growth of 6 to 8%. If you don't invest, you don't grow. So we are not investing enough. We're at the bottom. You can see the investment in Nigeria has shrunk over the years. It's a percentage of GDP. And this is kind of the one single chart that we need to address as a nation. I mean, I went to China the first time in 1983. I lived there for a decade, speak Chinese, or at least used to be able to. And I witnessed the greatest economic transformation in history. Well, we are the next greatest transformation in economic history. And yet people are not investing in us. The Nigerians are not investing enough. The diaspora is not investing enough. And then others outside those groups don't invest enough. And unless we solve this issue, we're not really going to be able to take advantage of the place we're in. So this question has to be answered. And I'm not, as I said, I don't really spend a lot of time dwelling on bad news, but I do challenge the federal government and saying, you need to answer why people won't invest when there's such incredible opportunities. Sixth theme, I think, is just very critical, and for this particular group is something to think about. Our informal economy is over 50%. It's part of the reason why our statistics don't really reflect the scale of the economy. on that. Not all of that is captured in the statistics. But being in the informal economy is a choice, right? People choose to be in the informal economy because they measure it against being in the formal economy. And it's still too costly and too complex to be in the formal economy in many cases. And of course, one of the problems, the informal economic activity, is nothing wrong with it per se, but the problem with it is that it will always be low productivity and low investment, because you can't really invest in a structured way into the informal sector. So something that really is now on the government's agenda is how do you get, how do you encourage people? You can't force them, but how do you encourage people to move from the informal to the formal sector? And I think this is an issue for many entrepreneurs as they struggle with how do they fit into this ecosystem. Improving the business environment. I mentioned two thoughts ago, the need for more investment. Of course, primary reason we're not getting investments is just still a little bit too difficult to do business. And again, I think another national heroine is Dr. Jamoke over at PEBEC. I was at their 5th anniversary celebration just before Christmas, I believe, at Aso Rock. Really, she's done an extraordinary job. The VP has been so supportive, but we just haven't quite broken through. There's so much momentum there, but there's still forces opposing ease of doing business, but particularly at the federal level, the complexity, the unwillingness to kind of confront the multiplicity of MDAs, the multiplicity of regulations, overlapping jurisdictions, extra burden, many costs, taxes. I mean, one of the things you hear my colleague Taiwo say, which I'll repeat, which is the federal government raises 98% of its revenue from just 6 taxes. So we have recommended as PwC, you eliminate all the other taxes and charges, but that's not happening. We're still going the other way. So still, despite all the opportunities, despite our PEBEC and all the emphasis on it, and many people try to make the business environment a bit better, it's still a little bit of a struggle, uphill struggle. Okay, so we can't really have a discussion about the economy without the big 3 distortions really on everyone's mind today. Power, again, is not a PwC position. My personal position is it should be a state matter. States can sort out power perfectly fine on their own. Unfortunately, we still seem a long way away from that in the current regime. The foil subsidy, is in the news all the time. We're now talking 3 trillion naira subsidy on an annual basis, a delay to take the subsidy out. Complex political issue, not sustainable. It's extraordinary. We're saying the oil's touched $90, and you would have thought if oil was at $90, our fiscal situation would be absolutely fine. And yet, for a number of reasons, but one particularly, the foil subsidy, of course, grows as the price of oil goes up. And so 3 trillion naira is incredible. So this system will have to come to an end. How and when it comes to an end is still a bit uncertain. And of course, the exchange rate. Again, similarly, the system is completely broken. We all understand the temptations for round tripping, the inability for the government to allocate scarce forex to different regime, to different companies or individuals, the inherent unfairness of it, and just creating this idea that if you want FX, the government supplies it, or the central bank supplies it, which is not the way this functions in other places. So we need to grow our export industries. As I said before, we're very focused on export of services at PwC, but in addition, we have tremendous opportunity in agriculture. And those are the 2 places we have the comparative advantage, and there's the big 5 crops in agriculture for export. So soybeans, sesame, palm oil, and 2 others that escape me for the moment. We'll come back, cassava, and then 1 other on that. So we need to address that. We've said consistently for 5 or 6 years, as long as we have multiple exchange rates, we'll never get the investment we need. So it's a condition. Now, my friend Bismarck, I'm sure you've all heard him talk. He says that we're in the 5 stages of grief, or the powers that be are in the 5 stages of grief, that these distortions are going to come to an end, but just the process of them coming to an end is going to be messy. One other thing I just want to plant with you, which I think Nigeria is a leader on, is the world is really realizing that GDP is not a useful measure of human progress. We've been obsessed with it for so long. Why would you have obsessed with it? Well, you would use it as a measure of progress if you believed it was well correlated with what really matters to people, that they live a long time, that they're healthy, they're educated, they have a good life. But now we've realized the relationship between GDP and well-being is not so strong. So people are kind of moving beyond GDP. I gave you the example a little earlier. Kerala has a higher life expectancy than the United States, despite having an income per capita that's about a tenth of the United States. And it just shows you that the translation from wealth or GDP into human well-being is not very tight. So rather than measure GDP, let's measure what really matters on that. So we're starting to see the Sustainable Development Goals developed by the UN really come to the fore, which I think is a fantastic development. And I think in Nigeria, we are really advanced in this. So in the Lagos, we have Shalape Hammond, who's the special advisor, maybe senior special advisor to His Excellency the Governor, who's the SDG leader on that, who really has done a great job, I think, in Lagos on that. But even at a national level, this is the language people are using. Now, the particular chart I brought, I didn't bring this to highlight, where we rank in Nigeria. On the right-hand side, this is SDG score. What I wanted to highlight to you was Ghana has now moved ahead of South Africa. So you traditionally think of South Africa as a high GDP per capita country in Africa, well developed. But what this really shows is how well Ghana has done in translating GDP into human well-being on that. And so I think this is a great news story. I think countries are going to get smarter and smarter about not focusing just on GDP, but getting behind what really matters to people in that. And I really want to cite Ghana as a leader in this, but we are also leaders in that. It's really on our agenda right now. So these are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So let me pause there. We've covered a lot of ground, but I think the most important thing from my viewpoint, as I said, is I've never been more optimistic, despite all of the challenges that we all understand in this session, and we live with every day. The energy level I see of Nigerians in every sphere of activity and we coined a term, the self-organizing Nigeria, because of course, when Nigerians take on these challenges, they're taking them on because there's been a failure of the public sector. So the public sector is not delivering power, it's not delivering education, it's not delivering healthcare, it's not delivering infrastructure, it's not delivering security. So Nigerians have simply stepped up either as individuals, as small groups, as larger groups, as companies, as NGOs to solve these problems. I cite a few examples just to wrap up. So there's a company, Emergency Response, that's started by a diaspora, well, she's returned now, Falake, on that emergency response to fill in the gap that it's very difficult to get an ambulance in Lagos. And taking on that problem in a private company, really doing well on that. I mean, it's just an example of that. I'll give another example. So the people, Madame Obi, when she failed her presidential bid, had a little think about what would really have an impact on governance in Nigeria. And she started the School for Politics, Public Policy and Governance. And all the faculty members are volunteers. I'm one of them. It's training 6,000 Nigerians about how to be politically active, how to get involved in politics on that. And we're entering our second cohort. We just had the graduation ceremony. So she saw a governance gap and just stepped up and did something really amazing on it. I mean, I'll cite Sahel Group. It's just people look at how difficult it is to do business, and yet they are prepared to make investments and help develop the agricultural sector on this. And the list just goes on and on and on of that energy level and the initiatives and entrepreneurs in the private sector, for profit entrepreneurs, NGO entrepreneurs for social impact. And of course, every one of you is in that category. So your efforts are going to be what creates the Nigeria that we all know is possible. I just hope I live long enough to see us. So God bless Nigeria, and let me stop there.
Welcome back, and thank you very much, Dr. Nevin, for that very in-depth presentation on the macroeconomic outlook for MSMEs to look out for in Nigeria in the year 2022. Just while you were giving your presentation, I was taking a few points, and it actually first struck me when you started off by saying Nigeria needs to create its own path, like the likes of Rwanda and the East African nations who are actually really driving trade and investment into their economy. And then you went further by saying, Nigeria needs to unlock its dead assets, looking at the refineries, the tourism, theater, real estate, and all that. You also talked about that Nigeria needs to harness the power of the diaspora, and you looked at how much we get or we generate from those Nigerians that are outside there, and how much they just remit through SSA, and saying that, oh, that SSA also actually said that Nigeria accounted for over 30% of those funds that come in within the region. One other thing I also took out was that Nigeria also, while trying to create its own path, that it needs to drive export growth and diversification through services. And you were very quick and very emotional to really talk about how the Nollywood industry and the music industry is actually portraying Nigeria at a very good note. And lastly, from that angle, the need for growth across the country also needs to be harnessed. You looked at education, looked at sports, and also other growth that could actually happen across the industry. Why not leaving out the innovation hubs? And so, having said that, we'll be going straight into our Q&A session, where that session will be moderated by someone very dear to the community and who happens to be the president of the FATE Alumni Executive Committee and also the community at large, in no other person. But before I mention his name, I'd just like to read something very short, something brief about our moderator. So I would say his name at the end anyway. So if I say his name now, it will really just cut the whole, excitement out of it. So he's the president, like I've said, and then he's a serial entrepreneur. He's been in the hospitality sector for over 18 years, and he has started off a business, being Millennium Apartments and Studios in Lagos, in the heart of the business of Lagos Business Hub, which is in Lekki there, and started that over 18 years ago. And he has so much experience in the hospitality industry in Nigeria. But prior to that, he was the co-founder of a restaurant for the expat community, in quotes, in name, that's Bottles Mexican Restaurant, and it won the best Mexican restaurant in West Africa as at then. I mean, I could go on and on. This man is also a FATE volunteer, and you can see that I'm actually speaking about him with great passion and delight. Please join me in welcoming our moderator for this session with Dr. Nevin, Mr. Max Menkiti. Welcome, Mr. Max.
Good morning, everyone. I'm quite happy to be standing here this morning, moderating this session, not least of all because as an entrepreneur, I also need my own answers, right? I need to be able to understand what is happening macroeconomically so that I can position appropriately for success, even if that means modifying my business plan and strategy for the year. So, thank you very much for a fantastic presentation, Dr. Nevin. Your PhD really showed up there because the way you went through the complex situations in very easy slides made it seem very simple. But as an entrepreneur on ground, things can be quite difficult. So I would like to ask you a few questions, and I hope through this process we'll be able to distill some wisdom from you, which can be actionable immediately by our great community. So thank you for your presentation and welcome. I would, at this point, just like to say that those of you following us on the virtual platforms, you're also part of this, and you can ask questions. Just pop down your questions in the chat box, and they'll be sent to me, and I'll be happy to read them out for appropriate answers. For those that are here physical, welcome as well. Please be a part of it. If you have any questions you can ask, just write them down and raise up your hand. We have some of our ushers standing by to get the pieces of paper, collate them and send them to me. So while we do that, I'll come back to you, Dr. Nevin. Thank you very much. While we wait for the questions to get collated, I would like to ask you a very simple opening question, please. And this question is designed to distill your knowledge and bring out practical answers. It's an unusual question, so here we go. If you stopped what you were doing today, right now, and you were forced in a way to become an entrepreneur in Nigeria, let's say Lagos, I would like you to tell us what sector you'd go in, And I'd like you to give us 3 reasons why you would go there. There's a caveat. You're not allowed to start the business with more than 3 million naira. So imagine if you stopped what you were doing today and you had to start a business within 30 days, like most of my community members have to, and you had about 1.5 million naira saved, and you could stretch and borrow another 1.5 million, making a total of 3 million. What business would you do? And 3 questions, why? Thank you.
Well, let me start out by saying, when I make these discussions, I'm not doing this because, as an abstract economist. I actually am an entrepreneur in Nigeria. So I've had a solar business that really, I guess, my wife runs, but I've been focused on, and for a long time it's taken, been slow and COVID and challenges with customs and that. So when I speak about this and the potential in Nigeria, I don't speak about it in the abstract. I'm very well aware of the challenges to it. In fact, we also have a fintech that we co-founded as well, and I'm an advisor to about 4 or 5 other kind of startups on that. So. But if I had a small amount of money and I had to leave what I do today, I think I would, a couple of bets that you might want to lay down. I said before that don't bet against the Nigerian consumer. And I think that people, for that amount of capital, there are people who are pretty, go back to your own success. I mean, I've been to bottles, many times when I was in Lagos, and I remember doing, we used to go to the salsa lessons there. I mean, I would do something in food and beverage, starting out, home, if you're high level cooking skills, creating something that people want, some sort of healthy food on that. That would be one area. And of course, maybe if I had a little more time, I would do something because of my expertise in fintech, particularly around digital assets. So this is using the same technologies we have for crypto assets, but applying them to different assets. So those are 2 areas that I would focus on that. But I'm well aware of how challenging it is to an entrepreneur. I mean, one piece of advice I would give to all entrepreneurs is your enemy is time. You have a good idea, but every idea takes longer than you think and more money than you think. And what kills entrepreneurs, including myself, the only reason I'm in Nigeria is because I had an e-learning business in China, and we didn't get going fast enough for the capital we had, and it failed, and I had to close it down. And otherwise, I'd probably still be in China. That's what brought me eventually to Nigeria. So I'm really aware of the challenges that entrepreneurs face. But most entrepreneurs that I meet who are not experienced underestimate the time and the cost of kind of getting to what is a good idea. It always takes longer than you think. So you need to set yourself up in a resilient way so you can deal with that.
Thank you. That's quite interesting that you're also an entrepreneur, but you haven't been to any of
I'm a failed entrepreneur. You're a successful entrepreneur. That's the difference between us.
Okay, well, if you come to FATE Foundation, I can introduce you to a few courses like our EEP. It's fantastic. Would you be interested? And by the way, you can also attend digitally, like I did for the EEP 26. I'll be happy to introduce you to a few people that will help you out, Doctor. So that's a very interesting idea that you shared there. And I'm going to pick up on the last point that you said. You said the enemy is time. And what I think I heard you say there is that we as entrepreneurs, we should begin to move as soon as we can, because things never happen within the time space that we say it would. So to our community, please, you have 3 million naira. You need to start a business for whatever reason. My own advice would be, first, go to FATE Foundation, right? And get the foundation that you need and the understanding. And then be conscious of time. Move fast. So please, once again, please send in your questions. Ushers are waiting and collating them there. Be a part of this discussion, please. My next question to you is about the big elephant in the room. And I expected, or I hoped, that you would have spoken to it a little bit more extensively, but you didn't. So I'm going to bring it onto the table. It's about the looming elections, or selections, as some people may choose to say. The elections are coming up, and they're about a year away from now. What is your thinking around what MSMEs need to do to prepare for the elections? With respect, I'm asking this with respect to the budget. We all know that when the budget is coming up for an election year, it's usually to reflate the economy. We're going to see a lot of money coming in. So how would you advise businesses, one, to position to benefit from the budget, the current budget that we're going to run? And my second question almost runs contrary to that. What would you advise businesses in our category to do in Q3, Q4 2020 to be able to be in a very good position for whatever eventuality comes out on the elections? So two things: the budget for this year leading up to the election. How do we position? What sectors do you think are great and why? And the second thing is, as the year winds down into Q3, Q4, what should we do as businesses? Could you answer those questions, please, Doctor? Thank you.
Right. So, I mean, obviously it's election year. There's going to be more liquidity in the economy. There's going to be more spending, particularly around fast-moving consumer goods, food and beverage, restaurants, entertainment. People are going to have money to spend. So I think that for the entrepreneurs who are in those sectors, it's very important that you make a lot of money in this period, but it's also very important that you keep your cost structure flexible. So because we're not sure what's going to happen after the election on that. So you want to create flexible supply chains, flexible cost structures, not lock in costs long term, but you want to make as much money as possible during this period. And I think that that's kind of good general advice for all of the entrepreneurs. We don't know who the next president will be. We really don't know, the economic direction of the country. We don't know how long these distortions will last on that. We don't know how long we're going to continue to have kind of these ease of doing business difficulties. And we've seen in this country, I mean, a lot of inflation, and inflation is really due to the fact that we have difficulty with the infrastructure, difficulty with the power situation. So those are all known quantities. So if you have a high degree of uncertainty, then those of you who study this, the mathematics of it, what options become more valuable, or what's called real options. So as an entrepreneur, what you want to do is make sure that you're not locking in anything on that. You have flexible cost base. You have multiple options for the supply. You have multiple options for distribution. It may be online, it may be physical, it may be a restaurant, it may be delivery on that, because you in that high degree of uncertainty, you don't know. So that would be my primary advice: is don't assume that the world is going to be the way it is today. Just, you have to create that resilience in your business. So whatever direction it goes in, you're both able to take advantage of the opportunities, but you're also able, if it goes in a different direction, you're not locked in a way that you suffer losses from it.
Thank you very much. The answers were great. You said we should make the most profit now, because election time is going to be a very uncertain time. And also you said we should watch our expenses coming to Q3, Q4, and we should try not to get locked into a position where we have huge costs or huge responsibilities or liabilities rolling into the year. Thank you very much. You also mentioned that we should create resilience. I love that name, resilience. It has been resounding in our community for quite a while. And I think at this point in time, most entrepreneurs that are affiliated to the FATE Foundation Alumni Community would understand how to build resilience into their businesses post-COVID shocks. Thank you. So I have some questions here, and I'm going to take one of them. Doctor, what is the practical solution to source for capital as an entrepreneur in 2022? I think I've got that right. So what is the practical solution to source for capital as an entrepreneur? I would try to limit the scope of answers to MSMEs so that we don't go into other types of business. So startups, businesses that are just growing. Thank you.
Let me start out by saying when you take capital, you create obligations, right? So it's something that everyone needs to be very careful about. If you go back to I raised $3 million for my startup in China from really friends and a few other high net worth individuals, and I lost that money, right? So it's something painful I've carried with me for a long time on that. So in seeking capital, also recognize getting capital always comes at a price, right? So if you have a startup, if your startup is the type of startup that has the potential for, well, either type of startup, no one's going to back you generally if you're a new entrepreneur, except the 3 F's, fools, family, and friends, right? They have to be the kind of starting point for it. You can't kind of go to established venture capitalists or other formal sources of capital on that. But once you get through that sort of stage of development, if your business is the kind of business that is, let's call it a normal business, it's going to grow over time on that. I think that once you get to be profitable, I think your sources of capital at that stage are, you have to get to a position that you can be debt financed, right? So, the banking capital in that when you get to a certain stage, which means you need to be formal. If you want to raise it, you need to be sufficiently profitable to attract bank capital. Of course, traditionally, the banks have not been very good at lending to that sector, and certainly not to the informal sector, but there's more and more technology that allows. So what the banks are doing is they're looking through the whole supply chain, all the transactions. So even in a formal business, there's going to be more and more credit available if you're a stable, informal business on that. And that's what I would look for. You can't imagine if you run, again, to go back to a restaurant example or a catering example or a food distribution business, that kind of business, you don't want to have an equity partner. You have to get to the stage you can attract a little bit of debt. But again, be prudent with it. If you're profitable and you bring on too much debt, you're taking a risk with it. If you're profitable and have no debt, you're in a very strong position. So you may want to grow faster, but think carefully about it because you can lose control if you take debt. If you're the kind of company though that has the potential to be a unicorn, so you're really a technology company that can scale up quickly, companies like in fintech, Paystack or Flutterwave, or companies like Jumia, Conga in the day they can scale. Once you get through that initial phase, if you have something that's interesting, then you're going to be looking for the big, well, not quite the venture capital at that stage, but the angel investor round. But that's a small number of companies. And I think once you get to that stage, the angel network investor, the incubators are kind of well known in the country on that. But my primary advice is don't take up too much risk. You go back to our environment. As entrepreneurs, we tend to be optimistic people. We overestimate how well we're going to do. And then if you take on either type of capital, if you take on the debt, you have the debt overhang and the pressure of that. If you take on the equity, you won't go bankrupt necessarily, but you'll be under tremendous pressure because of control issues on that. So my primary advice is, take it slow. Don't take on more capital, either type, than you can take on. And don't put yourself at risk. Make sure that you're really resilient, because if you take on debt, then it reduces your resilience on that. But as a practical matter, we're going to see the formal financial system become a bit better. I can see it already. I know my banking clients who do it. They want to lend to the MSMEs. They want to lend to the informal sector. The way they want to do it is an automated system, so that they, if you have you bank with one bank and they can see all your transactions and see you have stable cash flow, stable clients, they're going to make that credit available. But be prudent in taking it.
Thank you very much. So be prudent and curb your appetite for expensive capital. Thank you. Can we have a question up, please, from our digital or virtual audience, please? Okay, this is a question that's coming in from some of our online audience. It says, Doctor, I love the fact that you de-emphasized GDP as indices of well-being in a country. Why? While emphasizing SDGs. Is this an acceptable global standard? Please shed more light. 1 minute, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think, this is a very good question. So, I followed this issue for a long time, and you can see and have written about it, not in the Nigerian context, but in the Canadian context. And you can see a lot of work around the world about well-being indices, obviously happiness indices, I'm part of a group that's based in Harvard that looks at the concept of flourishing, measuring flourishing. But I think the thing about the SDGs is that they are so comprehensive. And of course, it's not just about people, but life underwater, life on land, the climate issue gets captured, gender issues get captured. So I really like the SDG language. I think it's really well thought out. And so I would like to see it, certainly for a country like Nigeria, become the language that we use. And it is becoming the dominant language. I mean, the UN has done a very good job on it. People may not know there are, I'll tell you, there's 17 SDG advocates in the world. So these are the most senior people who are because there's 17 SDGs, the UN Secretary General decided 17 SDG advocates, very senior position. I'll just let you know, 2 of them come from West Africa. One of them is the president of Ghana, His Excellency. And then the second one, of course, is His Royal Highness Muhammadu Sanusi II, who was the Emir of Kano, as everyone knows, and the governor of the central bank, and my client at that time, of course, who used to be the CEO of First Bank. So West Africa and Nigeria are very well represented in this movement, and I think it's the best language I've seen for talking about the well-being of people and the well-being of the planet, and it's just so intuitive. Meaningful work, decent work, no hunger, good education, life underwater. I mean, it just has a great way of expressing it that connects to human beings, at least in my opinion. So I hope the SDGs as a common language around the world continues to grow. But then to relate it back to your finance question, I mean, I think there are some of the entrepreneurs in the audience that do things that connect to SDGs, and they're going to find financing becomes easier and easier. So I mentioned in my talk something like wealth to waste, circular economy, and then there's more and more money available to SMEs because people want to back SDG goals on that. So if you can tie your business to some of these SDG goals and a purpose higher than just a profit, you're going to find MSME financing gets a little bit easier over the next few years.
Hello? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we have quite a few questions there. I'd like to be able to try and take 2 more. I'd like to restrict you to 1 minute so that we can just punch them out. Okay, here goes. Most of the entrepreneurs in Nigeria fall under the micro section. They usually find it difficult to scale up to the medium enterprise level. What do you think is the reason? And I'll just be happy with one reason, the top reason you think. And what advice would you give these entrepreneurs, most of whom are women? So what is the reason micro can't scale up to medium? One reason, please. And one advice you would give coming from the slant of it being majority female-owned businesses. Thank you.
Well, I mean, the advice I would give is go to FATE, because the reason that you can't scale is that what has worked for you as a micro enterprise isn't the same as you run a medium-sized enterprise. So there has to be some learning and transition and mentoring to make that transition. But the best place to go to get that FATE.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask you a question, which I think our audience at large would appreciate. So much hope has been placed on the almighty Dangote refinery coming online. And I think this question is pertinent in under the current framework of what's going on with the fuel issues that we're seeing around, which rockets up the price of costs for our entrepreneurs. What do you think the Dangote refinery will do to the economy? How would it change the economy of Nigeria? Because we're not really very clear. Everyone keeps saying and hoping. Could you speak to that for just about a minute, please, so that we can position as entrepreneurs? Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't think it necessarily has all of the benefits people are touting, but it does a couple of things. One, it just gives, I think, the country tremendous confidence, right? So you can build a 650,000 barrel a day refinery, have it work, have it producing, have it exporting foil. I think that part's great for the nation. I mean, it creates, significant employment. I mean, when you think about the supply chain to make sure it keeps running around the fabrication and steel and work and technical skills on that, which have to be supplied in Nigeria. Of course, it does save a little bit on the transportation costs in or out, makes the supply chain. But to me, the primary thing is it's going to give a lot of other people confidence we can do the larger infrastructure or larger industrial projects in Nigeria. So from that viewpoint, I think it's really important it comes on stream and sends that signal around the world. So it'll boost investment, but it's not quite the game changer on its own that some people have touted.
Thank you. Last question, sir. And I'd appreciate, again, your usual punchy, short answers. We're all fed up of the exchange rate going up and down because as a business, you can't really plan. The CBN is not going to devalue, then it's going to devalue, then the IMF wants you to devalue, then they let you off. Can you tell us what to expect Q2, Q3 for the second half of the year? What exactly do you see happening to the exchange rate so that we can take a position from the perspective of either going long on buying stock or, going short? So could you speak to what you see possibly happening in the second half of the year to the Naira exchange rate? And that will be my last question. Thank you, Doctor.
Well, I don't think we're going to see harmonization of the exchange rate personally in this year before the election. I think the CBN's position is clear. So, we've had the widened spreads for the parallel rate. I think that on the official rate, we're likely to see with inflation a little bit more give, maybe 4.35 by the end of the year. I think that the parallel rate can come in a little bit with the oil proceeds up on that, maybe to as low as 5.25. But I think that people are going to have to manage within those bands. But I don't see a major policy shift like a total liberalization this year. So again, be prudent with the risks that you take. Don't expect an official appreciation in the Naira, but don't expect a big official depreciation. But I do think that as the oil proceeds from $90 start to roll in, even at our low production, it will have a positive effect on the parallel rate. So I personally expect the parallel rate at 5.75 is probably as bad as it's going to get, and it may come in as much as low as 5.25 over the course of the year. So those, I think, are reasonable planning assumptions.
Thank you very much, and I think that rounds up this session. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Andrew Nevin. Could we have a large round of applause for him, please? Thank you, Doctor, for making time to speak to our wonderful community. And I would love to introduce you to someone at FATE who will put you through a digital course to make you a better entrepreneur. Thank you for your time, sir. Madam Edie.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much to our keynote speaker. Please, another round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. Who joined us live from Abuja. Thank you so much. So we're moving very swiftly into the interactive panel session. The good thing is that the keynote set the tone for all the sectors we're actually going to focus on. We have two of our panelists here live and then two others joining us virtually. So I would like to introduce those who are joining us, those who are here with us live first before those who are joining us virtual. So the first person I'm going to introduce is the only other woman on the panel, and somebody very dear to me who, I think the word is forebearer, right? That's the term. This person was the second executive director for FATE Foundation and has since gone to blaze the trail in the microfinance industry with Axion Microfinance, where she had a really, really impactful tenure, and then now pioneering the first education-focused microfinance bank in Nigeria. Her name is none other than Mrs. Bumi Lawson. She's a mentor of FATE entrepreneurs. One of our board members, who is our mentor, credits her with helping to develop his business plan, and is the largest sustainability business now in Nigeria. So please welcome with me Mrs. Bumi Lawson. You're welcome.
Okay.
And she's going to be focused on the education sector. The second person is a friend and also coincidentally works with the firm that our keynote speaker also works with. He's going to be speaking to us on the creative sector, for which they did a landmark report, I think about 2 years ago, really showing the size, the potential, the challenges, and the opportunities of the Nigerian creative and entertainment space. He's somebody who has had a lot of experience within the tax and regulatory space, either as a consultant, an advisor, and also a practitioner himself. So we may also have a few questions around taxation to also ask him. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Chijioke Uwegbute, who is a partner in PwC Nigeria, and will be speaking on the creative sector in Nigeria and the opportunities there. Our other two speakers are going to join us virtually. And our third person, which I'm going to introduce, I believe is online now, right? Yes, so our third person is Mr. Ibrahim Salau, who is an alumnus of FATE Foundation, a two-time alumnus actually. He did our AEP and also he did our EEP program, and he sits on the board of FATE as an alumni representative of FATE. One of the things that is very interesting about his work, unlike a lot of people in the sectors that we deal with, he started what is now one of the most important sectors to focus on, but he started that business almost 2 decades ago before people were focusing on it. And he currently runs the largest indigenous-led sustainability practice in Nigeria. So please welcome with us Mr. Ibrahim Salau, the Managing Director for Environmental Accord Limited. We can see you, you're welcome. Thank you. And last but definitely not the least, given the impacts and the potential of the sector, is someone who is the managing partner at one of the leading agri-business consulting firms in Nigeria. He's worked a lot within the agribusiness value chain, from a policy making, from a financial perspective, sharing insights and opportunity within that space, and he'll be providing opportunities to us, providing perspectives to us around market strategies and interventions, and really what small and growing businesses within the agribusiness value chain should focus on. I think in FATE, at least 35% of our businesses are within the agribusiness value chain, and it has the highest level of representation of our businesses. And Sahel has also at various times provided advisory and faculty support to our accelerator program. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Temitope Adegboroye, who is a managing partner at Sahel Consulting, and will be speaking on the agribusiness space. Yes, we can see you. You're welcome. Thank you very much. So we have a very short time, but I will make sure that it's really very interactive and also very insightful. The way we're going to run this session first is we're going to do a very quick walkthrough around the sectoral opportunities within these 4 sectors. So why did we pick these sectors? These 4 sectors have the highest representation of our businesses within the space. And if you look at even Dr. Nevin's presentation, the last 2 slides, if you think of the social, the SDG goals and the SDG goal areas, whether you're talking about education, whether you're talking about feeding people, whether you're talking about climate change, environmental sustainability, and whether you're even looking at the opportunities we have in the creative space, from services, from talent, and really just the potential that the creative space has shown us. These are the sectors that we feel really are key drivers of the economy, key drivers and opportunities for a lot of our businesses in the space. So each of our panelists has 2 minutes to give us their introduction, but giving us their introduction from a sectoral perspective. So, and I'm going to be timing very strictly. And I will start, so I'm preparing Ms. Lawson first. So again, we're going to do a walkthrough across each of the sectors back to back with just a view of the sectoral outlook for the space. What is the sector looking like? What are the challenges? And what are the opportunities? So please let's have the education slides up. And I'm going to hand over to Ms. Lawson to please jumpstart that. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, all right.
You have a microphone.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. It's always an honor to participate in FATE events. You know, it takes me back years. So but it's wonderful to see the growth. So I want to talk about the education sector. It's a sector that is always passionate, that I'm always passionate about. And in a way, I also actually put FATE Foundation itself in the education sector, because what it does is to help improve skills of human beings, and in this case, entrepreneurs. So just to quickly go, because it said 2 minutes, one of the key things that resonated with me when Dr. Naveen was presenting was the rate of growth of population. Once population grows, you need to educate them. So for you to have a valuable human being, the person needs to be educated. So these statistics I got from Holon IQ is an international global organization that focuses on the education sector across the world. And it looks at how population is growing. So it estimates that there will be 1 billion additional post-secondary school graduates in the next 30 years. And 75% of them will come from Asia and Africa. In Africa alone, you see his numbers show that 40% of population growth is going to come from Africa. And if you actually look at Nigeria, the World Bank estimates that the population in Nigeria is going to double by 2050 to 400 million plus. Some people even say 450 million people. All of those people have to go to school. Is it? Okay, great. So all of them have to go to school. But the capacity of school or education, and when I say school, yes, I'm looking at K-12, pre-primary, secondary, and so on, but also vocational, workplace skills, the whole gamut of places that focus on improving human being skills and ability. So it's not just your typical only secondary, primary, and university, but the whole gamut from professional institutions and so on. So if you look at that population growth, especially looking at Africa and Nigeria and where we're growing, we do not have the capacity to actually train all those people. And if you look at the investment that Nigeria does in education, they've never actually achieved 10% of our each year's budget allocated to education, whereas UNESCO recommends 26%. So what's going to happen? What you see on this chart is that UK, US, Canada, and Australia have large capacity. So 70% of Africans and Asians are going to require education for capacity they don't have, whereas those 4 countries have excess capacity. So international education, we think, is going to grow. And this just gives you an overview of education. So I'm not going to go into that because it's 2 minutes. But really, the global education market is expected to reach $10 trillion by 2023. This includes Africa as well. But we will see that there will be significant growth in post-secondary education students. But that also means that you need teachers, 1.5 million per year on average, so that we have 100 million teachers. So if you're looking for a place that you're guaranteed to get a job, it's a teacher. But we'll talk about what should happen to teaching. This is focused on Nigeria, particularly looking at the population growth. So we are on the growth trajectory when you're looking at education. Under 15s are going to grow, so pre-care, nursery, important. Non-educated at all is going to shrink. So, but you have people ending with primary education too is going to shrink. Most people would end with secondary education. So we need to beef up secondary education in such a way that they have vocational skills so that they can earn an income as they go out. And post-secondary too is going to grow rapidly, which is your universities and all that. So in Nigeria, 4 key things we think will shape education in the medium term. There will be emerging new models. We can't put everybody in the classroom. So we're going to use technology. So digitization is the next thing. So it will be a mix of classroom as well as digital platforms. And you can see a lot of that already happening. Then there's going to be education without borders. So you'll be sitting in Nigeria and you're going to be getting a degree or PhD or BSc or advanced skills across the world. You don't have to actually travel there. Education is going to, so the competition for our Unilag and all of those schools and even some of our primary schools, because there's already a UK secondary school that already offers A-levels from the UK and you're a resident in Nigeria and you do it all online and everything. So we're going to see a lot of that. So competition is not only there. I can see you're going to stop me, and partnerships. Yes. So I think that's basically at the fixes, and I'll elaborate some more as
Yes,
we ask
I'll
questions.
come back to
Yes.
that. Thank you very much. That was a lot of data. there's a huge problem in terms of potential population growth, but it also creates new opportunities. And
Yeah.
she also shared with us what some of the new opportunities that it creates for us within the space or those who are looking to the space. So I'll hand over to Mr. Chijioke for the creative outlook. Yes.
Yes. Is this on? Okay, cool. I do have a presentation, I think.
Yes, it's on.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just. So, Adenike, you told me 3 minutes.
Yes,
you sent
you
us
said
a
3.
message with 3 minutes, and now it's down to 2.
Because I did 2 with anticipation of 3.
Okay.
Okay, it's just very brief talking points, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Could we have the next slide, please? So it's a lot of words, but I'll just
Yeah.
quickly run through it. So for us, we're looking at the creative industry across, different factors that will impact it. Essentially, we're looking at the outlook for 2022. And so one of the key factors will be political, right? I mean, we keep talking about, the fact that, we're in a pre-election year, all sorts of things will be going on. It's a double-edged sword. It could be positive, it could be negative. Negative in the sense of, uncertainty of policy, but positive in the sense of what we as creatives can actually get out of it. Now, look, we've gone beyond the whole, printing leaflets or, taking out, advert space in channels TV to mainstreaming social media and content creation to actually get a larger audience. So this is a great opportunity for creatives to make the politicians look good. So I'd say creatives, please shine your eye and make sure that you take advantage of, just the opportunities that come from a pre-election year. Some of the other things we ask ourselves is policy formulation. Now, everybody's making political promises. They're going to change the world that they haven't changed in the past 3 years, in the last year of the tenure. So how about we now start pushing for some legislative and policy change that will impact the creative industry? Things such as, they came with the tax on digital services, which creates a lot of uncertainty, especially for the streamers and other digital companies that are interacting with the country. But then, how about we then flip it on them and then say, you came out with a road infrastructure tax credit order that gives opportunity for people to get a tax credit for building roads. How about we do an entertainment industry tax credit where you get a tax credit for building infrastructure that we can use in the creative industry, creative spaces. And it's something that can be easily done. So let's push them. They say there's another finance act coming up later in the year. How about we push for an incentive that would say if MTN invests in a movie, it takes a tax deduction for that, or even bring in film tax credits. So from a political standpoint, there's an opportunity, shine your eye. Now, if we move to the next one, things like economic factors, Andrew has talked about it. Currency instability is still an issue. I mean, we're working on a project where they'll be getting funding in dollars, but how do you then pay back when you're earning in naira, unless we now start looking at the opportunities that come from the export of our content, which for me has become, a viable opportunity for many of us to start earning foreign currency by selling our content, exporting our content. We're also seeing increased partnerships that are coming through. Africa has suddenly become the bride, where Netflix is signing deals, Amazon, Disney Plus is, pushing. So there's really a rush for African themed content. So again, shine your eye. Then another thing we have to ask ourselves is, looking at COVID-19 and technology, right? COVID-19, as bad as it is, also forced us to actually start rethinking how we create content and consume content. All of a sudden, TikTok has become a big thing. People are making money. I mean, Goya Ameno has, I think, 9.5 billion views on TikTok and 4.7 million creators. I am sure that nobody knew who Goya Ameno was in June.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about running kitty kitty kata kata, right? And people are cleaning out. Think about the fact that now we're able to use technology and social media to kind of push. So I'll say, maybe 6 months ago, nobody knew about bongo if you were below 50, bongo ayakata. But now, when that thing, there's one, that song that comes up and they start singing it and then boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, bongo has become big again. Or I go to a club and somebody is sneezing and boom, 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 and it's a club banger. So you find out that all of a sudden, there are different opportunities to create content and consume content. So I think for us, it's all about now being able to say, do we have the right framework for us to be able to now experience the growth that is very obvious? Look at our social factors. Insecurity, whether you like it or not. If you want to do big budget productions in the East, Southeast, you can't anymore because of all the security concerns or the fact that one day in a week, you can't work. So if you have a production schedule and you know that Monday probably will take part of your Tuesday and part of your Sunday because you have to plan around it, right? And in some places, you can't shoot anymore because you have to spend so much to be able to provide, for insecurity. I think for us, if I kind of just run into, because I know Nika will stop me soon.
1 more minute.
Yes, if just the second slide. If I just want to summarize the challenges and opportunities for us, right? I mean, I've talked about insecurity, internet penetration and affordability, and we need to start rethinking, and especially for the companies that provide data and the rest, to start saying, how can we start looking at ways where people can consume this content at a lower cost? I know that, for instance, Spotify is doing something where you can consume their content with, no free or no data. And then poor enforcement of regulations relating to copyright and patent laws. It's something that we need to kind of start thinking about. What can we do from a regulatory standpoint? And then also, in terms of your intellectual property, we need to now create an opportunity where people can start valuing it, where your intellectual property can start making money for you as well. We've talked about FX, lack of knowledge of the industry by the regulators. I am ashamed at what we have out there in terms of. Sorry, I take that back. I'm not ashamed, but it's worrisome to say we carry our shoulder. We talk about Wizkid and Davido and the rest, but the people that are regulating the industry that I'm actually meant to help you grow don't quite understand the industry. I was making a presentation to someone about Nollywood, and the person says, "Is it not those Aki and Papa people?" And I was ashamed, and this was a government official. So that's some of the challenges we have. But the opportunities are amazing. I mean, I've talked about many of them. AFCFTA is going to also drive that. Changing demography with a relatively young tech-savvy population. But you'll be very surprised that my mother consumes content on WhatsApp. So let's forget, we keep talking about Instagram and the rest. But my mother consumes content on WhatsApp. And she sends me those videos, right? What I'm wearing, I saw it on WhatsApp. And I messaged the guy, and the person made it for me and set it down to me. So start thinking about how you can continue to, leverage these opportunities. I'm going to stop here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was really very succinct. And one of the things that even your presentation highlighted is that even creatives is not just a standalone, it cuts across. So there are expressions of creativity in the agri-business space, and then even the traditional fashion, all of that. So we should also just look at it from an entertainment perspective. Thank you very much, Chijoke. So I'm going to move very swiftly to Mr. Ibrahim Salau for the sustainability sector outlook. As I had mentioned, I hope the slides, I hope we can see him. Fantastic. Yes, over to you, please. 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Edie. Can you hear me very well?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's indeed a great pleasure to share this moment with all of us and to have the opportunity to discuss the sustainability sector as it affects SMEs. And from a 2022 outlook perspective. So I'm going to start by taking us to 2015. So that was when we had the Paris Agreement, which is the global framework for combating climate change. I mean, Dr. Nevin spoke a lot about why climate change is the number one challenge facing us as humans today, and why businesses should care. So globally, we had the Paris Agreement in 2015, and last year, we had COP26, which also was a platform to discuss how the world has been responding to the challenge in terms of the plans that have been put together. So these plans come at country levels as what is known as nationally determined contributions. So in 2015, Nigeria's NDC was that, contained the fact that we will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, which these are the greenhouse gases are the reasons we have global warming and then we have climate change. So the target that we set in 2015 was that we will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 20% unconditionally and by 45% conditionally, meaning that we will generate, because the unconditional commitment means that Nigeria will raise funds internally to ensure that reduction target, and that the conditional commitments will depend on inflows from external sources. Like Dr. Nevin said, we don't generate a lot of greenhouse gases in Africa, but we bear a lot of the brunt. So the developed countries who generate a lot of the greenhouse gases are expected to invest in developing countries like Nigeria, who are facing the brunt. So that's the conditional commitment. But the thing is that last year, October, November, at COP26 in Glasgow, Nigeria revised its nationally determined contribution slightly. We maintained the 20% target for unconditional reduction, and then upped the unconditional target by 2% to 47%. So this is very important in the sense that the nationally determined contributions also articulate the measures that will be the bedrock for achieving these targets. And so this is one of the reasons why government was raising a sovereign green bond. A lot of the proceeds of the sovereign green bond actually were channeled to meeting our 20% unconditional commitment. But the more important point is that Mr. President, Nigeria would achieve net zero emissions by 2050.
You're on mute, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. It came back from Glasgow and then signed off the Climate Change Act. So these two commitments have tremendous implications for MSMEs, and I would explain. So the Climate Change Act, which the president signed into law last year, November, requires that businesses with employees of 50 and above in Nigeria should set emission reduction targets to align with the NDC commitments. Yes, a lot of MSMEs won't have employees 50 and more, but we dominate the supply chain of the businesses that are directly triggered. So it means, therefore, that these bigger businesses will be asking us, who are players in their supply chain, to also demonstrate commitment. So this is something that we need to be aware of, and that's just one of many other factors, which I'll talk about in the next 1 minute. So the other factors this is an election year, a lot of money will be spent, and a lot of this money will go to SMEs. This creates an opportunity for SMEs to also think about environmental, social, and governance risks and opportunities. For example, you're a caterer. Are you paying attention to the waste that you are generating? at your event venues, are you measuring of footprints is going to be very important. Bigger businesses will be asking you to demonstrate reduction so that they can also, you don't manage what you don't measure. So you need to begin to pay attention. So it is very, very likely that those bigger businesses is shortlisting MSMEs will be asking you about
we're losing you a bit.
You are attending to this issue. So if you are in Abuja like Dr. Nevin, but I hope that it's coming out better now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you could quickly round up so that we can move on to the last sector. Thank you.
Yes. So in rounding up, paying attention to environmental, social, and governance issues going forward will come with some significant advantages. Fundraising, for example, a lot of investors pay attention to this, and also in terms of the impact that you are making, the impact in terms of before and after. A lot of investors want to see a demonstration of impact, and it begins with understanding the before. If you don't know what the situation was before, then you are going to struggle to demonstrate impact. So MSMEs, in terms of enhancing competitiveness, needs to think about impact. This is becoming very important. MSMEs needs to think about climate change and their carbon footprint. MSMEs need to think about labor and working conditions. These are issues: gender equality, social inclusion. I know that as MSMEs, we naturally, these are issues that we either would think are alien. But my central point is that they are more important now than ever before, especially given the requirements of the Climate Change Act that Mr. President signed into law, and also the commitment that Mr. President made at COP26 that Nigeria would achieve carbon zero emissions by.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. A round of applause. And then last but definitely not the least, Mr. Temitope Adegboroye on the agribusiness sector outlook. Over to you, sir.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
Am I coming out?
And hear you.
Okay, great.
Very well.
Thanks so much. All right. I want to say hello and well done to the other esteemed panelists, and also say hello to all the distinguished participants. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to speak on agriculture, and probably look into how the sector is going to fare in the new year. I know I have a number of slides, but please just quickly advance to the first one on the key trends in 2021. And really, most of you are experts in this, and I'm probably, just bringing these up as some form of refresher. The agriculture sector in Nigeria is, it grew by about 1.7%. Sorry, do you have my slides? Are you sharing? Or I should go ahead?
You can go ahead. Yes, we'll share them.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Okay, great. So the sector grew by about 1.7%, in 2021. And the key driver of that growth is actually the crop production subsegment of the sector, which contributed about 87%. But in the end, we look at, even with the growth, there's a lot of factors around, insecurity, devaluation, naira, and inflation that affected that grossly affected the sector. And just taking a bit of a deep dive into some of the political and environmental factors affecting the agricultural sector in Nigeria, generally, particularly in 2021, because I think that's really important, because most of what has happened in 2021 will still continue to affect the sector in 2022. Heightened insecurity, conflicts, most of the production areas in Nigeria, the forex ban issues, irregular and extreme weather conditions, and from the macroeconomic, perspective, I think a lot of the speakers today have already alluded to the devaluation of the naira, which is very critical, especially for agri-businesses who are, looking to explore, the procurement of raw materials, whether internally or from foreign countries. High inflation is one factor. The high cost of inputs, such as fertilizers and some other inputs. So those are just really serious issues that have been, holding back the potential of the agricultural sector in Nigeria. And when I look at 2022, just from a sectoral but also value chain specific perspective, just looking at the pre-production end of the value chain, just mention the biggest factor that I think the biggest challenge that is contributing to some of the issues. The price of key inputs such as seeds, pesticides are likely going to continue to rise, due to the inflationary pressures. In production, we have a lot of security issues. It's worsening by the day. Particularly in the northern parts of the country, where most of the raw materials inputs are sourced from. And we've talked about the issues of climate. If you look at the processing end, processing companies and even livestock farmers are facing some shortages around inputs and ban on importation of certain raw materials. And also there's the operating costs of that is attributed to electricity, attributed to transportation, which are projected to also be on the increase. In the supply chain hand, there is insecurity, of course. The insecurity is a challenge because it sometimes affects free flow of produce from one end to the other within the country, as well as the possible multiple taxation that entrepreneurs might expect or might experience when they're moving food from one state to the other. So these are just some of the general, challenges that I'm trying to rush, but also to be very, specific for specific segment of the agricultural value chain. But I think there are some opportunities for agribusinesses, particularly MSMEs in agriculture. The opportunities are always there. The first one I'll talk about very quickly is I think the knowledge hubs and platforms are going to continue to be very relevant and very key to the success and the ability of agribusinesses to scale. Platforms like FATE Foundation need these platforms to accelerate work, to connect to various partners with various funders and even grant opportunities, and also to receive training on how best to manage the businesses. The other opportunity that I will quickly highlight is the government's focus on establishing a strong foundation for a diversified economy with robust MSME growth. And recently, I think in November 2021, the federal government of Nigeria released the first volume of the National Development Plan, which is the first medium-term development plan that will run between 2021 and 2025. And agriculture is a big part of that. We had the pleasure as I consulting to contribute to that. And our executive chair was actually the chair of the agriculture subsector for the development of the National Development Plan. And there's a big emphasis on robust MSME growth and creating a more resilient business environment for medium and small businesses to thrive in the country. So I think that focus of the government will definitely push a lot of support from the government and even from the international community to a lot of MSMEs. And many of the speakers this morning has already talked about the election year, a lot of pre-election activities, and many of the politicians are going to be pushing on a lot of funds. In fact, not even just politicians. Many of the ministries are going to be really racing to ramp up most of the agricultural programs and agenda that they've set before the end of this time. And many of them would like to make sure that they complete most of those programs. And most of those programs are going to come with a lot of unique opportunities. that I think MSMEs will be able to benefit from. One of such program currently is underway, training of about 15,000 MSMEs on export readiness and how they can actually explore opportunities in exports markets in agriculture, focusing on some specific value chain. So that's an example. This is in collaboration with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. So things like these will be coming out from these ministries, agencies, and parastatals from time to time between now and the end of this administration. Also, I think there's going to be continued donor investment in agriculture, which I think is very key to provide technical, financial, and business support opportunities to various MSMEs. In addition, there are quite a number of favorable policies in agriculture. For instance, I've been having some conversations with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture around the new gender policy, which is coming up very soon, which is really focused on mainstreaming gender, in agriculture and agricultural programs across the various programs in the country. And I think that's a very good, unique opportunity. Once this gender policy is finalized, I think it will provide a lot of opportunities for women, small and growing businesses in agriculture. Also, I think 2-3 weeks ago, I was part of the validation of the national dairy policy, which is another area. But when I started speaking, I talked about the huge contribution of the crop production sub-segment of agriculture, about 87% of the total agriculture portfolio in Nigeria. But then livestock is another big one that is really coming up, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for even small businesses in that area, in that space. We are Site Consulting are currently, for example, implementing a 5-year program on developing the dairy sector in Nigeria, collaborating with local businesses who are committed to sourcing raw milk from farmers in remote communities for processing. And I can tell you that with our work in policy advocacy with the government and the release of the national dairy policy, which really frowns at the importation of dairy products into the country, but almost zero tariff on the importation of equipment for processing and for production. I think that's a massive opportunity. And last but not the least, I want to talk about the AFCFTA here. I think a lot of people have talked about this, but it provides massive opportunities, not even just for agriculture, but across other sectors. And I think many agribusinesses, particularly small and growing businesses, can explore the AFCFTA. I know that Nigeria, has largely really operated sort of a protectionist economy where we just want to focus on import substitution and really focus on diversifying our sector and growing our local industries. But the AFCFTA is going to provide some opportunities for entrepreneurs who want to explore opportunities in certain aspect of the value chains in Nigeria. There's some value chains in Nigeria that we have a lot of advantages, like cassava. Cassava, we're the largest producer in the world. Of course, I understand that local demand is even so huge, but there's massive opportunity in that area. Ginger, yam, cowpea. So there are quite a number of areas that entrepreneurs who want to explore export opportunities will be able to benefit from the AFCFTA. So I'm going to stop there as just general overview. Then we can take the conversation further in the next questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Temitope. Thank you. A round of applause, please. So what I like is that consistently across all our speakers, so even with the alarming economic indicators, inflationary pressures, on instability of exchange rates, it's almost like all our problems also present opportunities. Our problems around our large population, really attractive creative space. If you look at agri space, so much potential across value chain, and then even sustainability. There's so many acts that are also being passed. So we're going to have 2 rounds of questions for the panelists, and I'm going to keep it the same and just pass the mic round so that we can answer the questions. So it's a pre-election year. Money is going to flow. That is what everybody has been saying. whether intentionally or unintentionally, and practically, because what we expect, we've seen this before, where because new governments, people want to be re-elected, so we're going to see a lot of MSME loans being promised. Whether or not they are fulfilled is another thing. We're also going to see things around campaigns also happening and all of that. There will be a lot of opportunities for that. So that's number one. There are also a lot of acts that are also being intentionally focused on micro, small, and medium enterprises because of the percentage of the population that they are. So what is the opportunities that I want you to all to speak again more to the opportunities that people in your sector and people who are not in your sector but are looking to explore these opportunities in all the sectors that we've spoken about. What do you think they need to focus on? Just one thing, bearing in mind that a lot of our businesses are small and growing businesses. So okay, these are not your multi-million-dollar partners. So just small and growing businesses, right? Please, just one opportunity and advice for those within your sectors and those looking to play in your sectors to focus on. Thank you. Starting with, yes.
Thank you very much. So I hope you can hear me. So for the education sector, I really think that it's about using technology to distribute content. That's where I see the immediate quick win. So even if you have a classroom or you're running nursery school, primary or what have you, can you record your content? Can you put it on the platform so that it's shared across? Because scale is the issue. Once we talk about population growth, we will not have enough classrooms to put everybody. So if you can put content on technology and have a way to distribute it, to augment, so that if a class is 20, but that content is reaching 100 or 500, across board. That's one of the quick wins I see.
Thank you very much. So every one of us can digitize our content, not just even people in the education space.
Yes.
One of our businesses here is in the construction space, right? So that we're not just thinking of the education sector, we're all spread across events, industry, hospitality, services, and all of that. How are we digitizing our content and using the different platforms available to do that? We have an e-learning program. There's Teachable that allows us to digitize it for free and to spread it. And just the fact, and she said something that is very crucial, we have to look beyond the four walls of educational institutions. Exactly. A lot of us take courses and classes in places we've never seen and will never even be there. Even spreading those content in platforms as easily as WhatsApp and all of that is also very critical. Thank you very much. Chijoke, please.
Sorry, what's the question again?
Yes, what is the one opportunity that you would advise for entrepreneurs either within the creative space or looking to enter the creative space that they can harness or take hold of in this year?
No, because if I understood what you said was more from we're in a pre-election year.
Yes,
and
so looking at some of those things, yes, you can use that.
And everything, because, like I think you had said that there's a lot of cash available. And I guess the question you need to ask yourself is, how are you positioning yourself to take advantage of that cash? You talk about, a lot of people say, I'm a social media handler and everything. What is your value proposition? Right now, start thinking about it. Start doing some research on the people that you want to push this value proposition to. Because they all have tried to become woke in their thinking. There will be a lot of opportunities for you to create content for them. There will be a lot of opportunities for you to create fashion for them. There will be opportunities for you to even do like social media branding for them. So the question is, how prepared are you to take advantage of this? You need to do a lot of research on these people. You need to do a lot of research on their programs and policies. I'm speaking from something that happened in 2019 where I was opportune. No, I take that back. Even a more recent election, this year, where we had people who actually put stuff together and just randomly sent out. And one of the candidates just picked it up and asked for that person to actually run a bit of the campaign for him. Now, you won't always be successful, but, if you don't buy the ticket, right, you won't win the lottery. So that's how I think those are the opportunities. But if we look at it from a broader policy standpoint, I would say as a creative industry, the associations, the pressure groups, the faith foundations can actually start engaging government around right now, and I think they will be more receptive to policies that could impact the industry. So it's to get a very structured
pressure group.
Pressure group that can actually engage with government and say, here are the things you can do. We keep talking about a decade of gas. They are putting all their money. They are talking about a decade of gas, transition fuel, and the rest. Why can't we have a decade of the creative industry and put policies that will say 10-year policy for this industry that will help accelerate the industry, and then after that. So why not? Let's do that.
Yes, thank you. So even that emphasis on us being pressure groups, a lot of us here are members of chambers of like the Lagos State Chamber of Commerce and Industry, NASMI, NASIMA, and all of that. So even beyond just the creative sector, all the other sectors that we're in, this is also the time to advocate for policies also as those large groups that we represent. I would quickly go to, thank you, Mr. Chiyoke. I'll quickly go to Mr. Ibrahim. What is the one opportunity that you think that MSMEs can take advantage of in this time, whether or not they think they play in your space? Because when people look at sustainability, they think of it as very abstract. If I'm not Shell or people who are in the Niger Delta extractive, I really don't need to think about it. So what is that one opportunity that you would recommend for members of our community to take advantage of?
Okay, thank you very much, Edie. Like you mentioned, sustainability actually cuts across all sectors, right? So, and the number one point I would make is that please be aware of your ESG footprint. For example, the fashion industry is known to have like sweat shops, labor issues. Be aware of those and try to address them. The opportunity there is to enhance competitiveness and build resilience. Competitiveness in terms of attracting funding. A lot of funding are coming in now, so you need to be positioned. They are not just there for the peak. So this is a good time to begin to think about those things. So that's if you are outside of the sustainability space itself. So that just to reiterate, be aware of your ESG footprint, environmental, social governance, and begin to think about how to address them. The benefits are huge. The opportunities are huge. In terms of, I have mentioned attraction to funding, building resilience. For example, when big organizations begin to ask questions, then you can respond. So if you are in the sustainability space, quite a lot of our services are driven by regulations. I mean, there is no better time to come into this space, really. And if you're a consultant, I'll give you an example. Late last year, Nigeria, which is the enforcement arm of the Federal Ministry of Environment, wrote to all banks in Nigeria to conduct environmental audits for each of their branches all over the country. That is something that is going on right now. So if you are in that space and you are not aware and you know someone in the bank, please jump at it.
Yes, thank you very much. And to even give an example of what he just said, because some of us are thinking that it's only large banks, large corporations, corporates that will be asked for these things. I'll give you an example. We recently did an RFP for a bank a few months ago to provide training on entrepreneurship. And one of the things they asked us was things around our ESG matter. So things around labor law, carbon emission things, and all of that, because they're also trying to be a bank that is also ticking off their sustainability criteria. And that means that them and the people they engage with also need to be able to align with that. So perhaps we would even think of organizing some ESG awareness for our businesses at some point this year, so that we don't just think of it as abstract. So that's one example. Another was the point that he's made. I know that there was a funding program that I was asked to just sort of provide perspective on what the financing issues for MSMEs in Nigeria, and it's a development finance organization. Hopefully by next year they would launch the fund. And one of the things that they said for them, if they're giving things that happen in COP26 and all of that, that one of the requirements for the organization is MSM, even if they're micro and small businesses, that they'll be disbursing to, have to also show either commitment or very strong ESG practices. So it's something that we're going to see increasingly happening. It's almost like when people say, okay, how many number, showing us that you have a gender inclusive policy and all of that. We're going to see that increasingly more. Thank you very much. To Mr. Temitope, what is the one opportunity that you would advise? And agriculture is the one that everybody would, one way or the other. You know, a lot of us have family land, one uncle's land. All of us are remembering all the land that our parents used to talk about in those days, and we are remembering them now. So a lot of people are going, and the president said we should go into agribusiness, we should go and farm. So again, what is the one advice you give to all of us in this space, really, in terms of the opportunity this year, you know? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Edie. So for agriculture, it's maybe I would just say it's a little bit unique. Funding itself, funding support or expectations is an opportunity, very huge opportunity. Of course, we all know, you know, how funding in agriculture has always been. But it's going to come in like two different, from two different lenses, and I will quickly explain. So it's a pre-election year. Already it's getting heated up for some of us who are based in Abuja. And personally, I've been telling a lot of entrepreneurs and even people on my team that Q1, Q2, and maybe a part of the third quarter 2022 are going to be extremely important for businesses. We don't have a lot of time. So those opportunities will probably flow in from the government, but we have to really position ourselves to grab those opportunities when they come. Because at some point, things are going to be really heated up and it might be a bit difficult to be able to put certain things in place. So Q1, Q2, and maybe a part of Q3 are going to be very crucial. And I think that will be from the government. I think generally from the international donor community, there's going to probably be some sort of investment, party this year, because they will probably want to just watch, the space and see how things will unfold before they start to jump in, especially if they don't have any existing programs. Maybe existing programs will continue to run. So I think small businesses, those who are currently operating in the agricultural sector, or those who are prospecting, I think it's important to position yourself to be able to to explore those opportunities. And what do I mean by position yourself? I think it's a good time. We all are trying to revise our strategy for the year. Focus on your business model. Focus on actually building a demand-driven business model that is actually measurable, with measurable value addition. I think it's very important because people are going to be looking at some of these things, focusing a lot on SDGs, focusing a lot on, social impact and many opportunities, whether it's coming from the government, because the government also is acting, very smart now. And a lot of these programs are being really channeled through private sector, entities and organizations. So it's very important to make sure that you have a business model that is agile, and when I say agile, make it demand driven with measurable value addition, leverage technology, data innovation, and to, of course, focus on cost efficiency. And I think those are the real opportunities for players in the agriculture sector or agribusiness space in Nigeria for 2022.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So two points of guidance from you. First is in the immediate opportunity around positioning yourself to immediately take on. We've seen quite a lot of things, and in the next few months, we're seeing tomato, cassava, ginger. Again, it's the tone at the top. So if there's a priority sector, that's also being pushed, we're going to see a lot of programs happening. So how are we able to quickly, effectively take hold of these opportunities, because they would not also always be there all through the year? That's number one. But then more importantly is what you said, a long-term perspective. And I think this cuts across all sectors. How are you also building a resilient, agile, demand-driven business that, regardless of the circumstances, can also really hone on the opportunities and then grow and scale? So we will have a last round of questions. There's a question from we're not able to take all the questions. So I will start with Miss Lawson. For education, how do we bridge the divide between public schools and others, especially early years? So if you can answer that, but from a business and opportunity perspective.
Okay. I would like to answer it from an opportunity perspective. My sister actually is a teacher in the UK. Okay. My sister is a teacher in the UK as well. And one of the things she was looking at is actually focusing on how to teach parents to teach their children. So when you talk about how to bridge public and private, people will still have to go to public schools. If you look at how we project economic growth, people at the bottom of the pyramid, their income is not still really growing, so not everyone can afford private education. But if parents also have tools to be able to teach their children at home, then they can augment that. So how do we focus on that? How are you creating content that parents can use at home and is cheaply available? So for education in that sense, you're focusing on scale as opposed to cost per unit. So you're not trying to just sell a high product, but you're trying to look at scale so that maybe people register for something, and then they have access to use various content over time. They should be able to do it on their phones. Part of when I was actually preparing for this, focused on the use of mobile content. So how do we use that? That parents are using their phones to also augment the training. So content to me is really key. If you create content in various forms, I feel that would be one of the ways to bridge that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Chijoke, I'm going to now ask you a tax-related question, because part of if you ask a lot of our businesses, the number one is usually just general policies and policy somersault, but number two is around tax. And given the increased revenue drive and all of that, we're seeing a lot of different taxes. And what is the one advice you would give us around what the tax, outlook is going to be, and what our businesses just need to do? We also encourage that our businesses also pay the taxes that they're supposed to pay. So we're not looking for tax avoidance, but what are the tax management strategies that you would advise? Thank you. I know it's a long question, but please help us. Like my president said, just punchy, 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I wish I could be as positive about tax as I have been about the opportunities. You hear me say, shine your eye, there's cash. I wish I could be as positive about tax. But the truth is, we have the budget deficit for this year, I believe, is 6 trillion. And it will be funded really by an increased and aggressive tax drive. So I think that's one thing we have to, be certain about, and that's something you can take to the bank, that, the aggression will increase. And it's not going to change. And also with borrowings and everything, every loan you take today is a tax to pay tomorrow, because ultimately these loans would have to be paid back. So back to you as a creative. I think the first thing is, many of us don't even want to pay the tax. I actually don't want to pay tax too, to be honest. But if you don't pay tax, first of all, you won't even know what your real profitability is. and you won't even know what the real value add for your business is. That's the first one. Secondly, if you don't have the right tax information and the right tax records, right financial records as well, because it's a combination, not just tax, but financial records. How are you even positioning yourself for growth? And how are you positioning yourself where people are looking to invest in your business and you can't even tell them really what the real worth of the business is when you haven't considered your tax liabilities? Some of the things you can start thinking about, as a creative is start taking opportunities and looking at your tax, your revenue from the standpoint of, am I considered a small business? Many of us will go and set up companies and say, for the purpose of doing our business. I guess the question is, should I, be operating as a company or should I be operating as an individual? Because if you're operating as a company, then there will be requirements for you to be taxed as a company, and also the requirements for filing versus the requirements to be taxed as an individual and your ability to take significant amount of deductions. Because as far as I'm concerned, if I'm an SME being taxed as an individual, you can be sure that everything in my life is going to be charged as an expense towards my revenue, because as far as I'm concerned, every cost I incur is to generate that revenue. So you can start playing around with things like that. You look at your revenue as well. Do you fall within the category, if you're a company, of people who should be taxed? If you're looking at the size of your revenue in a year, whether you be considered a small company that won't be taxed at all, or a company that will be taxed at a lower tax rate. So I guess we can actually, because we do have an SME desk in PwC, and we do have these trainings, and we can actually get into specific conversations. But I think, as an SME, just first of all, is ask yourself, should I really be calling myself company? Should I be calling myself an individual? At least as an individual, you might be able to manage the tax rate and, the amount of taxes better than a company. But if you decide to be a company, then you then have to know what tax to pay and whether you've actually qualified to be a company that pays tax if you're a small company. But if you're making 100 million and above, then I think you're in a sweet spot already. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to your point, even with the new Finance Act and the taxes on the sweetened beverages that we saw, we would obviously expect to see more specialized taxes.
There's that excise tax on that. There was also the tax, obviously the digital service providers. And, so you start seeing, and to be honest, yes, these are things that need to be done. And we can't argue the fact that these are things that need to be done. But again, I ask myself, if you're looking at tax exemptions, if you're looking at growing this space, how about you give them an exemption on the tax on profits, right? And then bring them into that formal sector. If I were to advise government today, I'd say, give a tax waiver for people in the industry at a certain income level. And for them to get that tax waiver, they should come in and register and take them from the informal, because this industry is largely informal. Take them from the informal, bring them into the formal. You'd find out that even if I don't pay the taxes, because at the end of the day, how much do these guys make? Most of the time, they are loss making, to be honest. So bring them into this, right? And then allow them to, even if nothing else, maybe the transaction taxes could be one thing that could get offset it for the government, but the economic growth and knowing that I'm able to actually at least grow my business without the burden of tax on me, I think that would also be a great strategy. But again, 6 trillion, we want to fund it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for being very practical. So to Mr. Salau, the question I have is, what is the practical way that our businesses can find out about their carbon footprint, or even just get basic ESG status knowledge? How do they start that journey of being sustainability compliant?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's really not as difficult as it looks. It starts with paying attention to it. And we normally say it's a journey. So these are not things that would be achieved overnight. So the good starting point is for the business owner to see this as an opportunity area for the business. That's the starting point. A lot of the results will come with having the right mindset. And as MSMEs, the buy-in of the business owner is key. So that's a good starting point. The next thing to do will be to just begin to put in place simple documentation. For example, you might be surprised. Very few SMEs would have a whistleblowing policy, right? And if you have employees, 20 employees and above, you should have a whistleblowing policy to encourage openness at work and to also help you catch things that you will not otherwise have caught without that policy. So with the right mindset, begin to put simple policy documents in place, ESG policy. My big advice to SMEs is start with the lowest hanging fruits, and that's internally. Labor and working conditions. Lead with empathy and document this. Pay attention to modern slavery. Quite a number of the sectors have significant risk of modern slavery. For example, mining sector. Okay, so that's part of actually once you have the right mindset. Like I said earlier, understand your own issues, your own ESG risks and opportunities. And a lot of information are out there on the internet. You don't necessarily need to get a consultant or go to PwC or you could.
And we said we'll do
hire,
an ESG awareness. We said we'll do an ESG awareness session, so we will definitely do that. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the last question for Mr. Temitope is, what is the one mistake you think people trying to enter the agribusiness space make? The one mistake you see people trying to enter the agribusiness space make? And that'll be our last and final question.
That's a big question. Thanks very much, Didi. I think from my perspective and experience, the one big mistake is, underestimating what the risks are and not, and maybe undervaluing the level of expectations in terms of what you need to know about the science around agriculture. So I understand that we speak a whole lot about agribusiness, that agriculture is a business, and that's true. And I tell people many times that for me, the definition of agribusiness is very simple. It's really money in the pockets, food on the table, right? Every other things are just materials and methods. They're just how you're able to achieve those two fundamental, solutions: money in the pocket, food on the table, right? But even at that, there is a big science around it. Talk about production on the field, whether with crops or with animals. You talk about processing in your factories. You talk about logistics. There is a huge science that requires some sort of expertise, right? That many entrepreneurs tend to undervalue, and it's get them to really burn their fingers. And I think the best way to resolve that challenge really is around partnerships. I mean, apart from what I said initially around building a very agile business model, it's all about also making sure that with the business model you have, even if you're not an expert in agriculture, you don't know the science around it. Mm-hmm. It's really making sure that you're making yourself available to partnership opportunities, you're cultivating partnership opportunities. Someone once said that you can do a lot of things. I mean, you can do everything. You can attempt to do everything, but you're not going to be very efficient in doing all of it. And that's where partnership comes in, where you're sharing, ideas, within trusted communities, and asking for feedback, seeking for, some, low-hanging, solutions here and there that can support the fundamental principles of the business model that you've come up with. I think with
Thank
that,
you.
you'll be able to, really analyze, the risks involved and be able to prepare better for the business. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So agriculture is just a business like any other business. You really need knowledge, know where your strong competencies are, align yourself with other people that can support those other areas, and really just put the business hat on. So please, a warm round of applause to all our sector specialists, Ms. Lawson, Mr. Chijoke, Mr. Ibrahim, Mr. Temitope. Thank you so much. I know Mr. Chijoke has to leave. He has a meeting at 12:30. So please, let's just take one picture. Where is... Please. Thank you, Mr. President. Please join us on stage. Thank you very much. Another warm round of applause, please. And thank you very much to everyone, online and in person. So we're moving swiftly to our alumni general meeting. And I would now like to call on Mr. President to call the meeting to order. So we're swifting now from our business outlook and straight into the proceedings of our alumni general meeting. We really want to encourage all our alumni members who are here, and also particularly because we know we have more people online, to please wait. We promise that it will be a very efficient use of your time. There are so many programs, activities that we have at the moment, and we will be sharing that with you. We would also need more chairs on stage, please. Thank you very much. Mr. President, over to you, sir.
Thank you. So that concludes our first segment of the events today. If you're not a FATE Foundation alumni entrepreneur, you're free to log out now as we go into the second section, which is really for the entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So it is my delight and honor to welcome the current members of the FATE Foundation Alumni Community Executive Committee. So first and foremost is obviously our president, Mr. Max Menkiti, who is the CEO of Millennium Apartments and a graduate of our EEP 15 and our EEP 26 classes. Please, a warm round of applause. Yes. And then I'm just going to introduce everybody swiftly. The second person is our General Secretary, Madam Ngozi Okonkwo, also known as Madam NG. Please come right on stage. Yes. And the third person I would like to call is, who I should have called actually after the president. My apologies. Is Honorable Abdulbak Ladi Balogun, who is our vice president, who is the vice president of the EXCO, and also the MD CEO of the Lagos State Ferry Service, and an alumnus of the AEP 33 class. You're welcome, sir. And then I would like to call on Mr. Jimo Akobi Ibrahim, who is the Financial Secretary and Commissioner 3 for the Lagos State Audit Service Commission. One of the things, I have to also explain this because we get these questions a lot, is that entrepreneurship prepares you for leadership. So these are two entrepreneurs that are actively serving in Lagos State, they've run active and successful businesses which are still standing. So you just never know. So please welcome them with us on stage. And then our Madam BBC, Mrs. Adebukola Barua, who is our treasurer for the Alumni Exco and the Chief Executive Officer of Yemba Ventures. You're welcome, ma'am. She's also an alumnus of AP 15. And then, the last but not the least, she's the one that makes sure that, our communication is spot on. So please join me in welcoming Miss Clara Chinwe Okoro, the Chief Operating Officer for My Beautiful Africa. She is the Public Relations Officer of the FATE Alumni Executive Committee. I would now like to hand over to Madam Jensek. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Edie. Thank you, Adenike. Thank you, everyone. This is our first general meeting after a very long time. So thank you for being here. And for those virtually, thank you. This will be short and brief. I'll be reading our agenda for consideration and, of course, approval. So President's report begins. That's the first thing. After which we have the social interface. The alumni membership matters will be discussed. And then we have, of course, something I'm expecting us to discuss today, presentation and approval of financial statements and 2022 budget. We would like your feedbacks, your comments, and any other business you think we need to address. And then presentation of welfare officers and committee members. And then shortly, we just adjourn the meeting. So if there is any consideration concerning this agenda, please, the floor is open. Any considerations? And with this, believe there is none. We'll move the motion for adoption. Anyone can do that, right? Please move motion for adoption.
I, Adebukola Barua, would like to move the motion for adoption of the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I, Jimo Ibrahim, support the motion to adopt the agenda for the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So we begin, and I will invite Mr. Max Menkete, our president, to take over. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Jensek. Thank you indeed. Hello, everyone. We're very excited and happy to be here at this hybrid event. It's a great opportunity for us all. We've been serving on your behalf. It's my esteemed pleasure to bring to you the President's report, which will encapsulate some of the things we've been doing on your behalf since 2020. And for the second half, I'll talk a little bit about what we have upcoming for 2022. So, good afternoon once again, members of the FATE Foundation Alumni Community. I hereby present my report on behalf of the Alumni Association EXCO, all seated here with me. We are happy to say that we achieved the following. 1, implementation of activities and programs to our alumni community, such as the 2 Business Outlook events and the annual celebration programs. 2, increased engagement with FATE to influence the shaping of alumni programs and activities to ensure that the programs fit all the alumni entrepreneurial needs. 3, COVID-19 pivots to continue to help our members, rolling out several programs, including a range of free digital programs, reaching over 1,093 of our members spread across more than 24 states in the 4 months between April and August 2020, when things were tough and bleak. 4, access to government COVID funds. We worked hard with the alumni support team to ensure that our members' applications for funds from the Central Bank of Nigeria and Nirsal Microfinance Bank went through as smooth as possible. We are proud to say that we supported a total of 126 alumni members to access this fund, and the amount of money they were able to access ranged between 100,000 to 3 million naira as at the end of 2021. Number 6, we were also able to support at least 100 of our alumni members to access further funds ranging from 200,000 to 200,000 to 6 million from various other bodies and institutions, some being local and some being international. 7, delivery of FATE's very first virtual event, the 5th Alumni Conference, which reached over 1,285 participants with key speakers including the governor. 8, we worked with the FATE Foundation team to ensure that the programming and support services were able to fully transition to virtual broadcasts. This assisted our members to get access to the mentors that they were getting used to having before, to also get advisory and other support pushed out to them digitally. 9, financial support for members affected by the EndSARS riots. as their businesses were completely looted and destroyed. We, the EXCO, promptly met and reached out to FATE Foundation. We then set up the Alumni Emergency Distress Fund, and within a month, we raised 3,188,900 naira. And these came exclusively from contributions from 28 individuals, which were made up of alumni members, EXCO members, FATE staff, and board members. These funds were disbursed directly to the respective alumni members, following, of course, solidarity visits from us to encourage them to stay strong and be resilient. We then sent a report of the fund usage to our alumni community so that everyone would understand that probity and accountability is very important to us. Let me take this special time to thank once again everybody who rose to the occasion to donate in order for us to be able to reach out and help our members that were distressed at that time. Thank you all very much. 10. We worked with the FATE Foundation team to develop and launch the popular and effective Business Recovery Program, known as the BRP. This program has reached over 1,000 entrepreneurs across 12 states. My special appreciation goes to the members of the Growth Services team for their excellent effort in successfully implementing this. The BRP, by the way, was delivered completely free to all our members. 11. We created and launched the FATE Alumni Sector WhatsApp groups, which places members into more valuable sector clusters. So there's better levels of benefit as people are grouped by industry, and there's more focused knowledge sharing, more engagement, and more learning. 12, our constitution. Though not the first EXCO, we have, however, had to work essentially as if we were, and we had to work from scratch. Mindful that to deliver a successful tenure, we would have to take on and establish some basic processes for electing, onboarding, and transitioning future EXCOs. This includes the duties of the EXCO, spelling out what the key meetings would be, including this annual general meeting, membership and processes for membership, and creating a defined electoral process. I'm happy to say that we have now bequeathed and ratified a proper alumni association constitution to this great association. We are sure that it will now guide us gracefully into the future in all matters. 13. We launched our monthly members' newsletters, and this is now circulated digitally via email to members of the alumni community. Please, if you haven't received them, you need to check your spam box or just come up to any of us or send an email, which will be with our details. I'd urge you to look out for them because they contain lots of tips which will be useful to you in your entrepreneurial journey as the months go by. Now, that's a recap of what we did over the last couple of years. I don't need to mention again here that we had rampaging COVID, which forced us to also pivot and learn on the job. Now we're in 2022, the second month to be precise. For the rest of the tenure, I'd like to share some of the things that we're engaged with currently, and we do hope to be able to deliver by the end of our tenure, so that when this EXCO is handing over after the elections to whoever may run, rerun, or step in, we should be saying that everything here on in has been done effectively. So, looking forward into 2022, myself and EXCO team aim to, 1, deliver an affordable insurance package, specially designed and negotiated by us to our members, which will protect our businesses, offer some health cover, with general life aspects rolled in. 2, explore funding opportunities. We will continue to work with the FATE team to aggressively expand funding and finance opportunities for our members, locally or internationally where we can. 3, creating opportunities for EXCO members to meet with our members. We shall be visiting in-program events as they go on, individually, digitally, or where possible physically, to be able to engage with people from the community with the aim to listen to you and to get any feedback on any issues, we do welcome your feedback and we take them very seriously. 4, we hope to fully develop and deploy our CSR program, which is on effective entrepreneurship curriculum for schools, in conjunction with the relevant state officials serving as a point of contact to shape favorable policy. 5, we hope to support FATE to finish and launch our Alumni Hub, which will be a virtual business directory and community where we can all engage to find various services that we need in our day-to-day business routines and lives. And the idea is that we're able to shop first from each other. And if you're in need of contacts or sourcing materials, we should be able to go onto this platform and able to engage one another there easily. So please watch out for the Alumni Hub when it comes up. I think it's going to be a game changer in multiplying the wealth of the members within the community itself. 6, we're planning and we will deliver our very first 2-day alumni conference resort style, where we can engage each other on a deeper level, network, and have learning seminars over the 2-day session. We hope to come together at the end of the year to participate and to reflect together where we can effectively retool and prepare for next year. So there'll be more information going out. It's going to be something completely new, as opposed to the 1-day or 1 event seminars or events that we're used to. This is going to be a 2-day opportunity for us to immerse ourselves as a community into various aspects and hopefully come out with more network contacts and also better learning opportunities. 7, institutionalize our welfare and assistance to the community. We're going to create a template and guiding policies to deepen and quicken our assistance to the community members via a newly onboarded welfare officer. That's a post we've had to create following some of the challenges that our members have met. EXCO decided that we need to create that post so that we can effectively reach out faster and respond quicker to members that might have one form of distress or the other. I shall be introducing the committee to you at a later stage today. 9, continuation of delivery of our 4-page monthly newsletter and the quarterly newsletter too, giving information on various events, business tips, and in there we hope to be spotlighting random members' businesses from time to time so that we can give wider circulation to our own members' products and services, thereby hoping to drive more sales and awareness for them. 10, special support programs. We are now working with the FATE team to deliver some special programs based on requests that we've had or based on what we see as coming up in the future. 1, the special program 1 is an access to market training, and we are going to do this with Amazon. And this is to help entrepreneurs that have products that may be right on the platform get access to Amazon, where they can expand their sales horizon within Nigeria and also begin to export with relative ease. 2, this is going to be a training. We're going to run a special program, and it's going to be a training that is going to get some of our businesses that are board ready up and doing so that we can assist them and coach them so that as established entrepreneurs, if they need to set up boards for their businesses, be they board of directors or be they boards that are just going to advise, regulatory and advisory boards, we're going to run a special program that will help take them through the processes. And not only will it help take them through the processes, we're also going to run part of that program will help match businesses to potential board members that may help make their businesses a lot better. 3rd type of special programs that you should keep an eye out for is our in-person consulting clinics. That's going to be launched in March this year. 11, EXCO Alumni Communications. As you know, we are very focused on communicating with you and sharing messages directly or through the FATE team. The goals we have here that I've spoken about are going to be communicated to you in more depth as we go on. Please look out for the announcements and look out for the emails that would be sent. 12, elections, elections, elections. Well, we're in the season of elections, and I guess FATE Foundation is not left behind. But I think FATE Foundation has an advantage, the alumni community, in that we're going to show what a brilliant, smooth, well-run, great transitioning process should look like. So with that in mind, standing on the Constitution that we spent some time delivering, I'd like to remind everyone that our tenure of the tenure of this current exco is going to be expiring, and we're going to start off the electoral process sometime around June. So please, I need you to check your emails regularly. We'll be announcing that. There's a whole process that's going to happen. I'd also maybe touch on this a little bit later with a slide so that we can see what the timelines are. And we hope to hand over as Exco to the new incoming team at our next AGM towards the end of the year. Please participate and keep your eye out for the emails. My fellow FATE Foundation entrepreneurs, it continues to be an honor and indeed a deep privilege to serve the members of this distinguished community. Exco and myself are always open to you. Please call, send us emails, or indeed come over and chat with any one of us at any time. We stay open and committed to taking all your feedback and channeling it as effectively as we can. I can't end without saying a big thank you to my remarkable Exco teammates. Can we have a round of applause for them? My colleagues, your exemplary commitment continues to make our achievements, and I say this proudly, the envy of all other Nigerian entrepreneurial associations. I salute you all. A special thanks to Madam ED and our fantastic alumni growth support team members. You guys have just simply been magic. You are all enablers of our success at various levels, and we do deeply appreciate you. My personal thanks will go to our chairman, Mr. Fola Adiola, and to the FATE Foundation Board for their unwavering support whenever we call. Sirs, we aim to clock another 20 years and deliver remarkable impact. As I leave now, I wish everyone here, virtual and live, good luck in 2022. May you experience sustained growth, personal progress, and 360 degrees success. May all our goals come through this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. I think, please clap now. It's not easy. Without any platform, I don't think we've done badly so far. Thank you. Okay, I'll be welcoming our PRO, Publicity Relations Officer, to take us on conversations about the social interface we're planning for you. Please, welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, our role is extremely very well defined as the public relations team for the alumni. And the expanded role, we're going to co-opt more officers into the office. The whole idea is to build a robust team to become one of the foremost communities of alumni of a business organization like FATE Foundation. So I'm just going to read out a bit of profile of what we as a team have been entrusted to achieve for FATE Foundation alumni. We are expected genuinely to talk about the expectations of our members in the alumni community. We are to engage them, find out about their purposes, find out about their projections, find out about their expectations from the alumni community, and also to expressly be able to define that in our channels of communication with all other alumni members. We're going to discuss the vision the alumni body has, and in doing this, we're also going to be expecting input from members of the alumni, and what this will do is help us create a vision board of what the whole community is driving towards as a bigger goal for the alumni community. How are we going to do this? We're going to play on our mission statement as the alumni community for the FATE Foundation. We're also going to look at the value proposition and draw out our stories from that. And in doing this, it will be able to enhance the projections that the members of the alumni community has. And what this will do is help us key into that mission statement, key into the vision statement in designing our programs that will eventually offer us some value as members of the community. We're also going to look at relevant information that will be necessary to enhance our individual businesses and make sure that we communicate this very succinctly through the channels that the Public Relations Office has to reach the communities. And in doing this, it's a twofold engagement. We should also expect that the community members should key into this information and utilize them, and also give us feedback whether this was, of value to them in some way or the other. This will help us know where to focus on in channeling our efforts to bring value-driven information to them. As mentioned earlier by Mr. President, we have a major tool to reach our community members, which is the newsletter. This is a very critical tool, and it's a twofold thing. You have to also send us information that would help us build up that newsletter. And in doing this, we'll be able to have a bigger picture about whether we're advancing our visions and goals and achieving the goals that we set out for ourselves. And to the networking aspect of it, I think we've talked about this in the past few years, and I think now is the time we need to really walk the talk. One of the biggest passions for us would be to have these networking events in person, where we will probably have our businesses also on the same site, and invite people from outside the community to come and engage with us at those in-person events. And that way, it will probably give us two opportunities. First and foremost, to promote our businesses, and second, to see how we can do B2B businesses moving forward as a community. And we also talked about looking for ways to inspire ourselves as a community, which is also going to be one of the key points that the new incoming public relations team would focus on. We're going to put the flashlight on our members who are really doing quite well with their businesses, so they can also teach others the templates they're adopting and which ones are workable in this economy and why it's working for them. This could serve as an inspiration to others, and they could learn one or two things. In a nutshell, that's basically what we as the public relations team are expected to deliver to the community of the FATE alumni. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We believe that we need to come up more in the technology space. I think it was said here in the conversations today, and then we're emphasizing it as part of the things we'll do with you and work with you. I'll be welcoming our very own Vice, Honorable Abdul Bak. I hope I got that right, Ladi Balogun. He will be discussing on our alumni membership matters. Thank you, sir. Welcome. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. President has spoken, and he said this is year 2022, the year of transition at FATE Foundation Alumni Community. My business here today is to engage all the members of the community, the graduates of the various programs of FATE Foundation, on why they need to become members of the community and what benefit do they stand to gain for being a member. In particular, I'll be talking about the value proposition and the benefits therein in this alumni community for the membership, personal, and business growth. I want to take from the presentation of Mr. President when he talked about the welfare, newly created welfare officer and the welfare committee of the FATE Foundation Alumni Community. It is a deliberate course of action that we need to see to the growth and the personal life of all the members aside from their businesses. This is thrown upon us by virtue of the COVID-19 and the NSAS destruction of businesses and the loss of life. We came to discover that we need to be taking care of our people, not only their businesses, but also their personal life. So what involves around them and what goes about their daily living. We'll be talking about how to make money. We'll be talking about taking opportunities in the business world. What about balancing the life and businesses of each and individual members? These are the things that we'll be speaking to about the benefit and the value proposition of being members of alumni community. But the question I'll be asking myself and I'll be asking members of the audience is to say to you, why wouldn't I be a member of FATE Alumni Community? Why wouldn't you be a member of FATE Alumni Community? Fine. We are all graduates of different programs of FATE Foundation, so we are banded by FATE together. Imagine a classroom or a gathering, or we are watching a football in a stadium, and we are confiding about 10,000 people with various businesses at various stages of incubation in a place. We will be moving mountain, and of course we'll be setting agenda. That's the power of coming together as a community. As of today, we are almost 10,000 members that have been graduating from FATE Foundation since inception. So imagine all of us coming together, mobilizing our resources. We will surely make impact. Now, let's talk about what we need to do for ourselves. I will ask, is it about business support that we need for our different businesses? It is available in the alumni community. Is it the life and business balancing support that we need or advisory? It is available in the alumni community. Are we talking about the recreational opportunity, networking, and having fun or leisure activities among the members of the alumni community? It is available in the alumni community. Is it about funding support or opportunities for our businesses? The alumni community will, of course, make it possible for us. With the extensive experiences that we have as members of the ESCO and the members of the community in businesses and in government. So the issue of government and regulatory environment become easier for our businesses by tapping into the networking opportunity among the members of the community. And of course, we have the collective resources, pulling our collective resources together to make impact for socio-economic benefit of the larger society. That is, you and I coming together to look at CSR projects we can embark on that will benefit the young, the old, the male, and the female. And to target, this is a project of FATE Alumni Community being executed maybe in Lagos, in Abia, in Kano, or in River State. It is possible, and this can be done as whole. We're waking up suddenly to the aftermath of NSA's destruction in the year 2020. And then we realize life gone, businesses destroyed. And we are battling to survive and to create that sustainability for ourselves and our businesses. This team of young men and women that you elected to serve you, we've thought and brainstormed that we needed to have a provision for risk taking, that we take care of businesses, of individual, and even the personal health life of our people. So we have consortium of insurance companies that we talked to, we negotiated, we bargained, and we do comparison. And we found out that we can have an insurance package for our members with business content, group personal accident, SME life, healthcare inclusive, and the public liability. All roll into one to be provided in this insurance package at a cost of just 52,000 naira per annum. 52,000 naira per annum. Which of course translates into 4,723 naira per month. Which is what we can afford to pay at the end of every month, every quarter, bi-yearly, or even annually. To sustain our businesses, to protect lives, and to take care of our personal health and that of our family. This is what is being put together by your team, the FATE Alumni ESCO. But I want to ask, this is a voluntary organization. It is a voluntary calling. Also, it's a clarion call. But some of us that have been able to serve on this side since the year 2020, we know the goodwill that has amassed and added to our person. Imagine a very strong community of 10,000 members contributing just 1,000 naira, 1,000 naira each on monthly basis. That is Abdubak Ladi Balogun contributing a total of 12,000 naira on yearly basis to my alumni community. And about 10,000 other members are also doing the same thing. At the end of the day, you can imagine the pool of resources we're going to have in our hand. And this is what we need to do for ourselves, to cater for our businesses and to cater for our personal life. So I thank you so much for listening. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We have you in mind. This is one of my proud moments, knowing that not only are we here, but we care. So thank you, thank you. Please a round of applause again for us. It's not easy. Now, let's go to the things that drive. You've heard about alumni membership matters. We now talk about finances. So this is just presentation and approval of our financial statement and budget for 2022. I'll be inviting Sajumo and my big sis, Mrs. Barowa. Please come off stage and handle this session. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. President, ESCO members, our FATE Alumni Community, and of course, the engine behind FATE Foundation, the Executive Director, Madam Adenike, and our FATE team. My name is Jimo Ibrahim, and beside me here is the strongest woman I've ever seen, the person that is in charge of our funds. She makes sure that we always cross the T's and dot the I's. Madam Bukola Barua, that I fondly call BBC, Bukola Barua Crayon. We have been asked to present the financial statement and budget for 2022, but we will only dwell on the budget. The financial statement, we can't do that because most of the things that we do as an ESCO during the past 2 years, we've been doing it on pro bono, funding from our own purse, doing it our own way without recourse to fund from anywhere except from our purse. And of course, the support from the FATE family. So we don't have financial statement to present yet. But we're looking at how to move forward. And for us, the best thing is to put a template in place that would guide the incoming executive. And that's why we have decided to prepare the budget for 2022. So I want to ask the technical team to present the budget, to put the budget online so that we can share with everybody. And on this note, I will hand over to Madam BBC to read through that budget so that we can take comments, and in every other areas I will also be there to explain some of those things. Madam BBC, please.
Good afternoon once again. I'm happy to be here and to actually serve on the board. I've been on the ESCO team and also deliver a budget to you that we know would, with your support, we hope to achieve everything we have said we're going to do. So we know this alumni community is basically going to be funded with dues. That's the alumni dues. So most of the time we would ensure that and encourage us to actually pay our dues so that we are able to meet up with all we have said we are going to do. Can you please go down? Okay. So we expect that in the alumni community, we are apparently over 10,000 members, but we're looking at active members of 7,000. So you can imagine having an active member of 7,000 in an alumni. If it were to be government election that is coming in 2023, you know definitely this 7,000, it's actually, you understand what that 7,000 actually means. So for us at FATE, we've said because we are starting, out of that 7,000, it's just 30% that we believe will actually buy in immediately. So we based the budget on that 30%, half of. Now we went ahead again and said half of that 30% will actually deliver in terms of funds that we use to run the alumni community, and which is why we looked at it and said, with all the linkages to funding, we expect that by the time you scale, once you're paying your dues, you actually know the benefit of why you're paying those dues, and would feel that we are not pressurizing anybody to do that, which we are not voluntarily doing. Please, can we go to the bottom part, notes to, okay, so the dues, we've already done that. Like I said, we've done 50% of the 50% of the 30%. Let's go further down. There is also room for other income in terms of donations. Then we also provided for, can you go up a bit? We provided for the ordinary general meeting. That's for the next one. Basically, we're supposed to meet 6 times in a year. And for the provisions we've made, and we think that most of it will be online. And also we expect that any hybrid we're doing, we're going to have ourselves participating in terms of bringing our products so that we don't have to spend too much. And also because of your products that you're bringing, it's more giving you awareness, and a lot of people will know who you are and what you are with your products, basically. Yes, for the insurance for members, we believe that with an active membership of 2,100, we expect that part of that annual dues, we're going to give a basic insurance policy. But if you now want to do an add-on, which of course, like we said, the 4,000, if you want to do an add-on, you pay an extra 2,000 on top to give you more benefit in terms of the insurance. Then, like we said, internet communications, secretariat expenses, and can we go down, final down? Okay, and like we said, for everything we do, we always put the auditor to come and, check all what we have done, which we also do in our businesses. And finally, we have the AGM expenses, and of course, bank charges for everything we do. So we are not exempted from bank charges, just like your businesses are not exempted. But like I said, we have a way of managing all this so that it doesn't affect our bottom line. Thank you very much.
In addition to that, we want to encourage our members. Like the Vice President has said the other time, what we're expecting from members is just a little token of 10,000 per annum for membership dues, so that this will be used to cover the expenses and every other thing that we have done here. Because as she's rightly mentioned, we intend to encourage us because of certain benefits that will be added. Your 10,000 naira will attract those benefits that has been explained earlier on by the Vice President. And of course, I'm sure there are other programs that we are also working on that will also be added. So we're encouraging us to look at this, and please ensure that we are active and financial members so that we can take advantage of all this benefit that is going to be put forward. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Sama. This is interesting. As we finalize more, we'll make it clear. You'll get further confirmations via email on how to pay or how to be sure. There are other things that are in this, but this is our first general meeting, so from there we kick off. Don't worry. The next one, September. Tighten. Hey. You are the ones that will decide. So, and that's where we are getting to. Round of applause. Okay. The floor is open right now for feedbacks, comments. If you need clarity on any area, I'm here. We'll take your questions and I direct them properly to who needs to answer. So, okay, we have number one. Please, can we have a mic or something to work with? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Please introduce yourself and your class, and then the question. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Ojushe Motayo, AEP 94.
Okay.
Digital. I just need a clarification. The VP mentioned 1,000 per month, which is 12,000 for the alumni.
Yes.
And then when the FinSec was talking, he mentioned 10,000. Disparity of 2,000. So let us have it clear.
1,000. Okay. Our honorable has answered clearly. It's actually 1,000 per month. You remember that there are a lot of demarcations in the price, so I guess that's where we missed it a bit. We apologize for that. So it's 12,000. That's an annual due for membership. Thank you so much. Okay, next question. Next question. Okay. Oh, please, for those watching virtually, please send your questions and we'll answer them. We'll deal with them from here. Thank you so much. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Christopher Nwogbo is my name, AB 39.
Okay.
Mine is not a question, but an appreciation of the current ESCO for keeping it going. Based on what I've seen, the handwriting is very bold on the wall, and we can get it done. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's yes. It's a wonderful question. Thank you so much. Thank you for that feedback. It's quite encouraging because this is a volunteer work and we're doing it because we believe that entrepreneurship is actually the only drive to social and economic improvements for our nation. So thank you. Any other questions? Online, virtual? None for now. Okay, I'll ask, and I'll be inviting our president to present the presentation of the welfare officer and committee members. Are we ready? Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Jensek. I heard all the drum rolls and flashing lights. So, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow entrepreneurs, I am happy to present an expanded EXCO team. The EXCO is going to have one person added on, and as I mentioned in my speech, we need to bring someone on full-time on the team with us that's going to look into all aspects of welfare. So we have an EXCO officer who's going to be joining us, and I'd like to present him to you. Not only that, in the formation of our constitution, we identified several important committees that had to be established to enable EXCO deliver on its promises and on its goals. So for brevity, I'm going to introduce the welfare officer to you in a minute, and then I'm going to call out the names of the people and the names of the various committees that have been constituted to serve you. Some of them are here with us physically. If I do call you, could you please come on stage for recognition? And if you're virtual, hello anyway. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to present newest member of EXCO, the EXCO baby that's going to be looking after our entrepreneur babies, I guess. The welfare officer for FATE Foundation EXCO, Mr. Tobias Igwe, AEP 38, 2011. Founder, CEO of Plenty Things, including Speed Meals Catering Limited, Speed Meals Culinary School, and recently Akunwata Hospitality Limited. A very vibrant character that's going to add value. You're welcome on stage, please. There. Thank you. And we have a welfare and membership committee, which has been constituted and selection has finished. Temi Tokbe Akeju, AEP 18, 2006, 2006. She's the CEO of Deco Tales. I'm excited to have her here. Omotayo Ojushe Richmond, AEP 94, 2021, List Nigeria Limited. Dr. Okoronkwo Ngabu Lilian Chioma, AEP Scale Up, founder Zuligan Fantasy Food Island, and Akinremi Julian, AEP 62, 2018, CEO 14 Farms. The next committee is the Publicity Committee, and there are two people in this committee. Mr. Christopher N. Morris, AEP 39, 2011, Fail Concept Limited, and Mr. Tawhid Alimi, AEP 101, 2021, Limta Farm and Agro Allied Services. The next committee is the Finance Committee members, and there are two. The first member is Yemisi Obe, Scale Up 2018. She's the MD and CEO of ProThrive Astute Heights Limited. Mr. Taufik Abdaziz, AEP2, 2004 in Port Harcourt. He's the CEO of Bob Torah Trading. The next committee is the Economic Ventures Committee. The members are three. Mr. Michael Oladeji, AEP 64, 2018. He's the CEO of Ruston Group. Titus Igwe, AEP 12, 2007, Port Harcourt, Swan Hill Enterprises. And Mr. Franklin Audu, AEP Scale Up 2021, popularly known under the brand of Maizobo Integrated Company Limited. My pleasure to also introduce the Strategy Committee members as our final committee. It has 4 members. Olani Yonu Adeyemi, EEP 2019, Hercules Professional Services. Daniel Akinjishe, AEP 89 in 2020, of TAD International. Joke Akiola, AEP 2012, CEO Pleasant J Events. And Sarah Ogbewe, OCN 2021, Plethora Ideas Extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, can we clap for these people who have elected to serve? I'm quite excited. Please keep clapping, keep clapping. They've decided to give their time. Okay, hold on. I'm going to squeeze myself in here. Just like Moses, I part the waters. Okay. Well, it didn't really work, but... So, ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for this exciting addition to the people that will make things happen this year and onwards. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My people. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oga Welfare. Thank you. And thank you to those that are online as well. Thank you very much. We're almost running up. I think we've done good work and we've caught up with time. Thank you all for still staying tuned. We have, how am I going to put this down? It's not often that I'm lost for words, but let's see. So I'd like to invite the ED up here for a special presentation. And this is not on the agenda, so you won't find it anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, can we welcome the ED, Adenike. Madam.
Thank you, sir. So again, this is not on the agenda, but we couldn't have had a better time to do this. When Madam Jensek was talking, she talked about how a lot of the EXCO members really are giving their time voluntarily, time resources that we can't even calculate and do that. But when you also find people that serve, a lot of times it's because they're people that also make it easy for them to serve, right? We're all volunteers in different things, whether our religious organizations, groups, and bodies. But there are people that inspire you to also enable and do that work easy. And our alumni community has gone through different changes, but really always for the better, because of the belief that if we're able to continue to support this group of people, they will do better. But we can't do that if there has not also been the focus and the interest in-house to make that happen. So today, we would like to honor a very special person. So this is sort of like a change of baton session. But we would like to honor a very special person who has been extremely crucial to the success and everything we've done at the FATE Alumni Community today, to growth services, growth support, everything that FATE Foundation has done today to do that. So, please, there's a gentleman I would really like to talk about, just very briefly. And I would like to invite him on stage. Please join me in welcoming FATE Olayemi to join me on stage. Please, let's continue, please. Please keep clapping. Please, can you stand in the middle, please? Thank you very much. And thank you for coming. Thank you. He was not aware of this, by the way. So the gentleman standing next to me, his name, and you all know his name, but just in case we don't know, his name is FATE Olayemi. He joined FATE Foundation in January 2014 after recently returning from the United Kingdom, where he was working with MetLife Insurance as a financial consultant. He started as the head of FATE Consulting and then rose to be the senior programs manager and head of our growth unit. And our growth services unit is really the unit that really is in charge of our alumni community. And that every growth that unit has made is because of everything we do in that unit is really around alumni, where it's mentoring, consulting, workshops, all of that. I also have to say that is the program unit in FATE that is not funded. So you can imagine all the work that has had to be done over the years. All through his 8 years at FATE Foundation, FATE constantly, always, without any hesitation, invested his knowledge, his time, his skills, and resources to always support members of our alumni community and on their entrepreneurial journey. And by extension, their spouses, their children, their wives, their husbands. Because alumni members call us at 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 12 midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning, you wake up, you see their messages. And for a lot of you, you know we have a lot of WhatsApp groups. So you can imagine the 50, 100 plus WhatsApp groups that we are in. Under his leadership, the growth support unit under FATE Foundation and under FATE's leadership has had many successes. And as the president has said, including the rollout of 6 annual alumni conferences. Again, we started our alumni conferences under FATE, pioneering the business outlook like you have seen today. We didn't always have a business outlook. It started in 2016. Visiting hundreds of alumni entrepreneurs. We're trying to get this number, but we could not because there are plenty. Not just in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Abuja, but literally across the country. And visiting them, visiting their businesses, leading their sessions, working with them, sometimes even visiting with them to funding partners. So LSETF, Bank of Industry, FATE, my application, my number is this. They came to visit me, I wrote this. Where is my business state? This asks me, you people spoke about, where is my application status? Where is my funding? They've approved it. When am I going to get the money? FATE really has been the person leading his team, and I have to emphasize that because he worked with several team members over that. And then, last but definitely not the least, really the landmark program that he had under his leadership before we finished, was to lead the rollout of the Business Recovery Program in collaboration with other team members at FATE Foundation, which reached over 800 entrepreneurs in 11 states. He has also been a great partner with the FATE Alumni Executive Committee to ensure that the needs of the alumni community are placed front and center of the foundation's work. The entire members of the FATE Alumni Community would like to appreciate and thank FATE for his work and devotion to the micro, small, and medium enterprise space. And we celebrate his commitment, focus, and diligence. So he's joining you guys as an entrepreneur, and he will be very much missed within our family. But your impact, your influence, will be a forever evergreen one. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And as the executive director, we're going to give an award we've never given before, again, in recognition of FATE's commitment. And I would ask the alumni president to please join us in doing this. So this is a special award we're presenting for our FATE Alumni Community Service to Fatai Olayemi's dedication, resilience, diligence, focus, passion, and everything he has done. A lot of entrepreneurs would always speak to what you've done in years to come. There are businesses that you've impacted, and we thank you and we celebrate you. Thank you very much.
Diligence and contribution to our community. Thank you very much. We wish you well. May God bless you.
Yes. So a picture with the exco too. Thank you.
Good fellow.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. So like I said, it's a change of baton, right? So we can't have Fatai leave us and then not have somebody else to do that. And one of the things I'm very happy about is this transition. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. One of the things I'm very happy about is this transition. And so there's a lady you may have seen, she's been hovering around in the background, helping, just ensuring that things are in place. Some of you have also seen that she's been sending messages on the group. So, but it is my delight and distinct honor to introduce to the members of the alumni community, the EXCO, I've met her and they're familiar with her, our new head of growth services and our new alumni support champion person in the person of Miss Oluwaseun Oshoni. Please come on stage. And so, we present to you the person in FATE who is also going to be leading the charge of affairs of alumni members, the alumni community. Shehu joins us as previously as the head of memberships for the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So she's somebody who really understands, really just supporting businesses through groups, through association, and she literally has hit the ground running, and we welcome her. So we also present her to the alumni community in person and virtually. You're formally welcome, Shehu. You're formally welcome. Thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to the president to formally run. Thank you very much, everyone.
Wow, thank you very much, Adenike. And it's quite, well, I've always known we're going to make the presentation. I felt quite emotional about it, but as they say, onwards and upwards to greater things. So Fatai, again, if you want to ever become an entrepreneur, I can recommend a great program. And I know this great place, and hey, you can do your courses digitally. If you speak to me later, I might be able to get you a discount. Exactly. I'm sure you might even know one or two of the people there. And we can fix you up with some mentors as well, all right? Yeah, sure. FATE Foundation does everything. Okay, so thank you all very much. I hope it's been exciting enough to hold your attention for those of you that are logged in virtually. I do know that it's lousy sometimes with the networks tripping on and off. The temptation to wander off to Facebook or Instagram is always there. But I hope we've been able to deliver a fantastic first AGM. Watch this space. There's more to come. At least before we wind up, we shall still have a few more tricks up our sleeves. So, the last item on the agenda is me as president adjourning and closing. But before that, another surprise. So I'll invite Mr. Itoro to come and give some awards. Yes. We have some secret awards for some special people.
Yes, so again, this is also not on the agenda for today, and we've had lots and lots of surprises today. Fortunately, no tear will be shed, right, Mr. President?
None at all.
So with me here on stage, I have a young, beautiful lady who will be assisting me into making sure this goes as smoothly and swiftly as possible. So first of all, on behalf of the entire alumni community, we want to show appreciation to the indefatigable EXCO members. I mean, ever since you guys stepped up and took up the mantle of leadership, it has been a whole new level of experience entirely. And I can go way back, continue to, try to roll out memories right from when we had the retreat, and we had that boat ride for about 2 hours. And many of us had our hearts in our mouths. And at that point in time, I was already asking, oh Lord, forgive me all my sins. I remember that point in time where we had water hyacinth stuck up in the engine. And I'm like, oh, it seems like this is like sometime in April, but there are no guns blazing here. So please, once again, we really appreciate you, EXCO members. And we have a little something here. And we'll first of all start by appreciating everyone, but we'll start off with one person. I'm sure many of you will be wondering what is going to happen now. Not a problem. We will not give bones where we are supposed to give meat. So please, viewers at home, entrepreneurs present in here, please join me in showing warm appreciation for the EXCO Vice President of the FATE Alumni Community in recognition of your consistency, commitment, and service to the FATE Alumni Community. We appreciate your leadership through service, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I hope one of these days I'll be the one giving something to a prominent leader in this country. So right about now, we have one more, but a few more. Secondly, we have, still also in recognition of your consistency, commitment, and service to the FATE Alumni Community, Mrs. Ngoji Ng Okonkwo, our able General Secretary. You need to see when she talks. And we appreciate you, ma. Thank you. Okay, another one goes here. Even in the digital space, it's all about ones and zeros. And even in accounting, it's ones and zeros. Just 1 0 could either make you rich or actually send you packing out of business. So please, let's join our hand in welcoming Mr. Jimo Ibrahim, the Financial Secretary of the FATE Foundation Alumni Committee. Sir, in recognition of your service consistency to the community, we say thank you very much, sir. Yes. It's always good to have carbohydrate, protein, so there'll be a bit of a mix here. And we'll be having right up here now, no communication. So please join your hands together as I welcome up to receive this award, Mrs. Clara Okoro, my beautiful Africa. Isn't she looking beautiful? We appreciate you, ma. Okay. Yes. You see, growing up as a child, we either would have papers and something to just scribble notes on, and we still have entrepreneurs in business that are ensuring that our young ones are still able to pick up crayons, pencils, something to just scribble something on, provided the spirit has dropped it in their head. And please welcome me as we appreciate our EXCO treasurer, Mrs. Bukola Barwa of Yemba Ventures. Madam BBC, as she's fondly called. We appreciate you, ma, for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, and so for this last one, you can imagine, you see, to show how important it is, I had to go looking for it. They say when the head is bad, everything goes wrong. And so you can also imagine, how did it all start? Who is the captain of the ship? How come this boat has not even sunk? It's not a Titanic. But In giving this award, I would like to hand over to the Executive Director of FATE Foundation, Adenike Adeyemi.
Because it may seem strange that we're doing this, but I have to say again that they've given themselves fully. You don't even want to know. When we have meetings, when we have retreats, there was a time, and when I say even when we have retreats, fully sponsored by the Alumni Exco, fully sponsored all through for the last over 2.5 years. And really, it's just to recognize and appreciate that with this token. So, of course, please join me as I present this to the President himself. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And over to you to formally close the meeting.
Wow, thank you very much. I told you that I have a very special team, and they make the work so easy. From concept, ideas, the way it's going to work, what we should say, what we should do. I mean, it's just a phenomenal team. Thank you very much, every one of you, and God will continue to bless you mightily, not just for me, but for Nigeria at large. So, I'm going to close it. Yeah. With that, thank you. Please be seated. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry, please, can we have a group picture?
We can do it afterwards.
Okay, after.
Yeah. So let's close. Okay, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, virtual and live, I would like to call to adjourn and close this meeting. Can I have any member here who's going to... Okay, let's actually take a non-EXCO Alumni Foundation member, please. Can someone move for adjournment of our meeting? I know you're having so much fun. Can someone move for adjournment? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Ahmed Ayinla. Hi, Ahmed Ayinla. I move the motion for the adjournment of today's meeting till the next one.
Thank you very much. So, can we have someone who's going to support, who's going to second?
Good afternoon. I, Obeolu Yemisi, second the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Till the next time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please, we have one more announcement while pictures are being taken. And this is now FATE Foundation. There's something we need the alumni members to do for us. So please join me as I welcome Akinwumi Akowojo, the head of our learning and influence, to talk about an important survey that is required by alumni members and why. Thank you very much, Akinwumi.
So good afternoon again. So last year, my team came up with what we call the Alumni Business Performance Survey. And the idea of the survey is basically to collect data from alumni members to be able to measure the impact and the successes of businesses, what's happening in your businesses and all of that. And last year allowed us to see insights such as we have 91% of people who we supported in the last 2 years who are still running businesses. There was a 44% increase in revenue. Women were playing more in agri-business and fashion. And the least places where women were playing were in media and ICT. These are just few of the insights that it allows us to be able to generate. And eventually, it's feeding back into how we design our programs and how we design the supports that we're giving to alumni members. So we are now launching that same survey for businesses that we supported in the last 5 years, from 2017 to 2021. And so we are inviting you to please fill the survey, share it with alumni members. It's on www.fatefoundation.org/impact. www.fatefoundation.org/impact. We still send emails. Regarding that, but we invite you to please fill the survey and be as open as possible. Some of the questions are a bit like we'll ask you if you are complying with taxes, not because we want to check, but we just want to see what has changed in such things. So thank you very much. We look forward to receiving your insights, and sometimes around July, we will be able to share that report with you. Thank you very much.
And also, this is what actually informed the Exco for a lot of the programs and initiatives that they did and are doing now. So that gives us, beyond just how well you're doing or how not well you're even doing, right, the challenges you're facing, and it allows us to have a data-backed information. Because yes, we speak one-on-one to a number of you in that, but that gives us the content that then now drives the strategy going forward. So you see it will harass you a lot, and we'll ask you a lot again to do that. So thank you very much, everyone, and we thank you for your patience and your time. Have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone.
It's a warm round of applause to our host for today, Mr. Itoro Udo. A very big, warm round of applause. They put host, but it's not his. Yeah, so thank you very much. Thank you, Itoro.